One, the city streets are completely deserted, and the blood-red sunset only adds to the heavy tension. Suddenly, a loud siren blares, warning everyone that the dungeon has been breached and to evacuate immediately. Meanwhile, a young guy with noise-canceling headphones is quietly working on a ladder, totally oblivious to the chaos. Around him, he takes a look at his paint job and smiles. Everything is finally ready. His favorite tunes keep blasting. He has just finished building his new hunter's pub, called the Tavern. But outside, there is not a single soul left on the street. He tells himself that once the furniture is set, they can open. But as he scans the area, something finally feels a bit off. The streets are completely empty. It makes no sense. This is the capital center. Where is everyone? Slipping his headphones off, the truth finally hits him as loud sirens and evacuation warnings fill the air. He jumps back, his heart nearly leaps right out of his chest. Wait, a dungeon breach. He stares at his headphones in disbelief. He chuckles. Those noise-canceling reviews definitely were not exaggerating. Modern tech is insane. He did not hear a single thing until now. All that outside panic, completely blocked out by some smooth beats. Suddenly, a massive horde of flesh-eating zombies rounds the corner. Wait, things are this bad. He did not expect to see monsters swarming the capital like this. He needs a weapon fast, so he scans the ground for anything useful. Where are the professional hunters when you need them? Luckily, a heavy crowbar is lying nearby. He grips the cold iron tightly, muttering that back in his day, things never got this messy. The new generation is definitely going soft. Without hesitation, he leaps off the ladder, swinging his heavy weapon straight into the nearest monster. It looks like he will have to clear this mess himself. He cannot just let these brainless creatures run wild, especially since they might ruin the storefront of his brand new pub. The zombie count drops rapidly. He handles them with insane precision, smashing skulls as if he has been doing this his entire life. Black blood splatters everywhere, and broken bodies pile up around him. He casually notes that rowdy troublemakers are not welcome. At his place, he smiles as a new wave arrives, wondering if his tavern has already become a popular spot. More monsters swarm in. Getting this many customers before opening is pretty wild. Covered in blood, he stands over a massive pile of remains. He calls out to the surviving monsters, challenging them to step forward if they dare. A whole year passes after that chaotic night, and the capital looks peaceful. The Hunter's Pub was open, cozy, and always ready to welcome tired visitors. Inside, a female patron sighed in disbelief, questioning if it was even legal. That tomorrow was already Monday. This was B-rank Sheriff Ki Min-jeong. She complained about working brutal overtime every single day this month, including every weekend too. She even worked today, coming straight here after her shift. Min-jeong groaned about her lack of days off, calling her bosses absolute slave drivers. A man sitting nearby suggested that Min-jeong should just quit, grab her things, and walk away. The exhausted girl drained her mug, admitting she desperately wanted to, but finding another job that paid half as well would be almost impossible to find. Hearing this, B-rank hunter Kim Hwan suggested she join the hunters and join his own guild, offering to put in a good word. But Min-jeong instantly rejected the idea. Sure, they paid better, but the work was much dirtier. She heard some hunters had been trapped inside gates for months. At least as a sheriff, she gets to go home after a shift, earning real downtime once a mission ends. Meanwhile, the bartender quietly kept pouring. Min-jeong then told her companion that he and the other hunters needed to do their jobs properly. If they actually closed the gates on time, the sheriffs would never have to step in. Kim Hwan argued that things were not that simple with far too many gates for the available hunters. Min-jeong then teased that if He just tried harder. He could easily save his classmate. Kim Hwan scoffed, calling Minjiang an absolute beast who strangled orcs with bare hands. Why would she ever need saving? She should stop acting weak. Minjiang took major offense to that, demanding to know why he called her a beast. Maybe he wanted this beast to shake all the nonsense right out of his head like dust. Right then, Lee-jun, the tavern owner, slid a glass toward them, announcing that the double Faust was finally ready. Lee-jun told them to enjoy their drinks right there, but if they wanted to keep having a lover's quarrel, they should get lost and go home. He couldn't stand the sight, asking them not to upset a lonely man. Minjiang immediately yelled out that it was not true at all. The owner calmly reacted to her loud outburst, saying that with her, things are never what they seem. Lee-jun added that watching them made him want to cry. Kim Hwan gently told the frustrated girl not to pay any attention, assuring her that the owner was just having fun. If she reacted to his teasing, he wouldn't stop. He laughed that the sheriff fell for the owner's jabs every single day. Doesn't life ever teach her anything? Minjiang fumed while Lee-jun smiled. Slyly, the tavern owner casually reminded her that if the ice melted, it would completely ruin the taste. Minjiang caught herself and quickly calmed down. She downed the entire drink in one big gulp and claimed everything was perfectly fine now. Hwan muttered that she was crazy. How could she drink so much of that stuff? Minjun tells him to mind his business. She is not about to take lessons from someone drinking raw, barrel-strength whiskey. Kim Hwan calmly replies that at least his own style has some class. He does not drink like a complete caveman. Minjun fires back that if you sip it slow and steady, you barely even taste the harsh alcohol at all. Kim Hwan sighs, muttering that this stubborn woman does not understand quality drinks. Minjun turns back to the bartender, ordering another double Faust. Shaken, not stirred, Lee-jun quickly nods and says he is right on it. Suddenly, a massive crash echoes from the street outside. Everyone freezes. Out of nowhere, the front door is slammed open so hard that it literally flies off its hinges, crashing right into the center of the bar. Lee-jun and his customers are left standing there in absolute shock. A total stranger stomps inside, aggressively demanding a drink. He wants the absolute strongest alcohol they have, and he wants the entire bottle. The giant man steps forward, stomping right over the broken door on the floor. The stranger mutters some nonsense about having breakfast with his boss earlier. But Minjun and Kim Hwan instantly realize this is no ordinary drunkard. He is acting far too unhinged to be just some random guy. Glowing blue eyes and thick, bulging veins, the unmistakable signs of mana poisoning. The unhinged intruder demands his liquor again. He is completely infected by mana. Kim Hwan loosens his tie, muttering that this is going to get messy. Luckily, they have two B-rank awakened fighters on hand. If he turns into a demon, things will get ugly, so they need to move. They have to lure him out before he transforms. Minjun nods in agreement. She tells Lee-jun to stay back while the pros handle this. Lee-jun watches anxiously as the massive intruder looms near the entrance. Kim Hwan steps up, offering to buy the big guy a drink. But they have to step outside to get it, where they can talk things through. The infected man refuses to budge, yelling that he wants his booze right here. Minjun cracks her knuckles and takes a much more aggressive approach. She tells him to get out, offering a very special physical massage. A painful one. This brutal treatment promises to immediately knock all the stress right out of him. The customer instantly snaps and grabs a wooden chair. He smashes it over a table, completely escalating the tension. The psycho warns Minjun to stay out of his way, but Kim Hwan loses his temper, throwing a massive punch right into the intruder's jaw. He jokes that people should never point out a woman's true age like that. Unloading on the infected guy, he calls his words a direct, personal insult. But the monstrous intruder is completely unaffected by the heavy blows. The giant slowly turns around, grabbing the hunter's face with a massive hand. Kim Hwan struggles wildly, yelling at the monster to release him. It is completely useless, as the monster lifts him clean off the ground. Calling Kim Hwan annoying, he squeezes. Min-jun finally steps in to fight. Min-jun demanded to know if the brute was deaf, telling him to release the hunter right now. She then unleashed a powerful, flashing strike. The staggered villain finally dropped his hostage. Pressing her advantage, Min-jun unleashed her devastating fire magic, knocking the brute completely flat. Kim Hwan gasped that he was all right, struggling to stand. He merely slipped up but would recover. The sheriff warned that this beast was no ordinary infected, and Kim Hwan agreed. With absurd speed and power like that, the monster had to be at least B rank. One slip-up would mean death. Kim Hwan grumbled that if he had his sword, he would have sliced the beast already. Min-jun snapped that excuses would not save them now. Her sharp words were incredibly harsh, but she promised she would hold that against him later. For now, the two old friends braced themselves for a sudden joint attack. Min-jun fired off another blazing blast, but the monster merely roared. His eyes glowed with a crimson fury as he warned them to step aside. His flesh bloated, transforming horribly, before he threw a massive punch. Both hunters were thrown back like ragdolls as the plague fully took over. Now a raging demon, the beast started ripping the tavern apart. Min-jun winced, realizing the infection had turned him into a full demon. How could they possibly defeat a monster like this empty-handed? Kim Hwan had no answers, but insisted they had no choice but to fight. After all, the defenseless tavern owner was still trapped inside. But instead of fleeing, Lee-jun calmly stepped toward the colossal beast. Min-jun screamed at him to get back before he got killed. Kim Hwan also yelled, begging the master to step away from the demon. They had to escape right now, yet Lee-jun did not flinch. The demon growled for alcohol again, making Min-jun think the owner had lost his mind. He was walking straight into the jaws of death. Facing a B-rank diamond without gear is basically a suicide mission. As Kim Hwan screamed for him to run, Lee-jun slowly balled his fists. He glared at the intruder, telling him that guests should sit down and drink quietly. Disrespecting his establishment was a grave mistake. Annoyed by the chatter, the giant swung a heavy fist at the owner. He roared that if he was denied a drink, he would level the entire place. Min-jun shrieked, desperately pleading with Lee-jun to dodge the incoming blow. But the stubborn tavern master did not even attempt to move. Instead, he threw a devastating counterpunch that sent the massive beast reeling. Lee-jun followed up immediately, targeting the demon's shoulder with rapid-fire strikes. The brute's arm immediately went completely numb and useless. Lee-jun coldly warned him to bite down unless he wanted fake teeth. Without giving the demon a moment to breathe, the brutal beatdown began. The monster actually chuckled, completely mockingly. What could a mere human possibly do to his demonic body? Lee-jun shattered that confidence instantly, knocking teeth loose with a brutal hook. He then swept low, striking a crucial pressure point on the monster's leg. The beast completely lost his balance, unable to stand on his heavily injured leg. Even so, Lee-jun kept relentlessly thrashing the thug. Outraged, Lee-jun demanded to know why this trash had dared enter his tavern. He then slammed the beast's head against the bar counter over and over. As the creature finally went limp, Lee-jun kept pinning its head down. With the rowdy scum finally taken care of, our protagonist let out a sigh. He really needed to blow off some serious steam. The tavern owner made it clear that anyone ruining his pub would get destroyed. Hearing this, both the sheriff and the hunter stood completely speechless. Seeing Lee-jun's terrifying display, they swore never to cross this master. Min-jun cautiously asked if he was truly just a retired B-rank hunter. His power was on another level, but the hunter noted the paperwork said otherwise. That official rank was exactly what the National Registry had listed. Lee-jun casually explained to the sheriff that a demon wrecked his pub. Since his life was on the line, he only acted in self-defense. Naturally, his insurance company would cover all the damages. When the monster let out a low groan, Lee-jun kicked it to shut up. He was trying to hold a proper conversation here. Min-jong stared down. He wondered if this unconscious thug could have ever threatened the master. Lee-jun shrugged, calling the beast pure useless garbage. He complained that modern punks simply have no manners these days. Either way, from a strictly legal perspective, he was perfectly fine. The sheriff quickly agreed, saying everyone would sign off on the report. There was zero doubt that the rampaging demon had struck first. As sheriff, she witnessed it all, leaving Lee-jun quite pleased. If she had not, he would have destroyed her entire police station next. The hunter silently watched, realizing the tavern owner was deeply unhinged. This master was far from ordinary, a truth clear from their first meeting. It all started exactly 1 year ago, when Lee-jun reached out a hand. He told the stranger to wake up, questioning why he collapsed on opening day. Lee-jun stared down at the shirtless, battered young man on the pavement. Slowly, the young man struggled to his feet, apologizing for the mess. He explained he had temporarily blacked out and promised to leave immediately. He apologized again for ruining the grand opening of the pub. But instead of letting him go, Lee-jun told him to hold on. He pointed out that the place had absolutely zero customers anyway. And since he was bored to death, they might as well share a drink. Besides, he said, alcohol is great for disinfecting those bad wounds. The dazed young man slowly looked up and stared at the tavern sign. Suddenly, the young man realized he did not have any money. He truly appreciated the offer, but he could not even afford instant ramen. The tavern owner laughed and said he was feeling extremely generous today. Since the guy was his first guest, he would treat him. A premium bottle of 25-year-old whiskey was placed right on the table. The young guest took a light sniff of the glass and praised the incredible aroma. The drink smelled like a dentist's office, making him wonder why people even drink it. The owner chuckled, saying that was the whole charm. It is so popular that it is incredibly hard to find. The young man asked if anyone actually liked drinking. This garbage, Lee-jun replied that the peaty flavor takes some getting used to, but once it grows on you, you cannot imagine living life without it. The owner was absolutely certain that as soon as the visitor got home, he would want to try this drink again. Lee-jun told the young man that his father could not stand it at first either, but eventually did not want to drink anything else. The young man was completely surprised. Did the owner of this tavern actually know his father? Lee-jun confirmed this, asking if his father was indeed Kim Hong. The master noted that the man had been in his debt when just starting out as a hunter. At first he was not sure, but this young man had mannerisms and facial expressions exactly like those of his old acquaintance. Right then, Kim Hyun saw a notification that a photo had been sent directly to him. The master said that Kim Hong was always bragging about his son, so he had seen more than his fair share of his childhood photos. Thanks to Kim Hong, he was able to adapt to life as a hunter fairly quickly. Kim Hyun whispered that everything finally made complete sense to him now. Actually, he had recently become a hunter himself, but this was the first time he had ever met someone who actually knew his father. Lee-jun noted that Kim Hong was from the older generation and rarely visited the country anymore, so after observing him, he decided to retire. Kim Hyun asked if it was really okay to be drinking during work hours dressed like that. Lee-jun replied that he does whatever he wants since he is the boss here, so nobody can tell him what to do. The pub owner pointed to the sign on the door, saying he did not plan on serving anyone else today, having already put up the closed sign. He just did not feel Like working anyway, so the pub would not officially open until tomorrow. Kim Hyun remarked that he always imagined a bartender as being a bit more disciplined. This place is a complete mess. Lee-jun chuckled that this was the main appeal of being the boss. Kim Hyun had to agree, being in charge had its perks. Lee-jun then asked why this guy was lying in such a beaten state in front of his pub. Even the lowest-ranking hunters are not usually thrashed like that. Kim Hyun stayed silent and simply lowered his head. The owner noted that the guy did not have to answer if he did not want to, since he only asked out of sheer curiosity. The hunter quietly replied that there was nothing really special about it. He owed heavy money to loan sharks, could not pay the interest, so they beat him up. Lee-jun was genuinely surprised. Kim Hong had made decent money in his lifetime. How could this have happened? Kim Hyun replied that his mother had acted as a guarantor for a close friend and lost everything. Then when he was in high school, she left a brief note of apology and disappeared. He also has a younger brother in elementary school. Hearing this, Lee-jun asked, how much money did this guy actually borrow if he cannot even cover the basic interest? Rookies usually make great money, but Kim Hwan reveals his principal debt is 10 million coins. Lee-jun notes that clearing low-level dungeons should easily cover that amount. But here is the catch: the debt climbs by 5% monthly. Now that he is a certified hunter, he can finally make small payments. Before he awakened, his financial situation was so terrible he could not pay a single coin. That is how his debt snowballed to a massive 800 million. Years ago, he desperately needed cash. His younger brother needed an urgent, life-saving surgery. No legitimate bank lends money to a desperate kid, leaving him only one choice: hunter loan sharks. The young hunter explains that this is a highly illegal lending racket run by the awakened themselves. And because modern laws are completely useless, nobody can control them. So when these parasites set absolutely ridiculous interest rates, nobody can do anything about it. Lee-jun frowns. Where are the authorities or the major guilds in all of this? Do they not protect him? Kim Hwan shakes his head. These syndicates hold as much raw power as the big guilds, forcing everyone to look away. The cash-strapped government simply lacks the strength to start an all-out war with them. Every available soldier is already busy trying to stop devastating dungeon breaks. Hearing this makes Lee-jun boil with rage. He fought tooth and nail to build a peaceful, livable world. And yet this corrupt and ugly reality is all that his past sacrifices managed to produce. The young hunter mutters that he was just venting before heading out the door. Walking down the street, Kim Hwan feels a rare sense of peace. Maybe he drank a bit too much of that free alcohol. Still, he resolves to return and pay his respects once he actually gets some coins. But two strangers suddenly block his path tonight. One thug glares at him with obvious irritation. The guy has money for booze, but absolutely nothing for his actual debt. He definitely has a secret stash hidden. His partner grins, fully agreeing with him. It is a good thing they decided to turn back and double-check on him. The main thug complains about getting chewed out by their boss. Now he needs to break some bones just to blow off some steam. His partner nods along, ready to fight. But the other shakes his head. He cannot earn coins with broken limbs. They need to find another way to hurt him. Right then, a shadow looms. Another figure suddenly blocks their way. The thug barks out, "Who are you?" He has never seen this face before. He wonders what the stranger wants, but before he can think, Lee-jun moves. The legendary Lee-jun grabs both of the bullies by their heads and squeezes. The thugs scream in agonizing pain before Lee-jun finally releases his tight grip. The thugs collapse onto the pavement, bleeding out as Lee-jun watchfully stands. To garbage like them, he is simply a force of nature, asking some very heavy questions. At the loan shark office, ironically named Hunting Loans with Love, the boss is seething. What is taking those two so damn long? They will pay dearly if they are slacking off somewhere. The secretary assures his boss that he will call the missing men immediately. That angry boss is Peak One Man, the current CEO. He grumbles that those two slackers have gotten way too lazy lately. The second they return, he plans to give them a brutal reality check. An unfamiliar voice suddenly speaks up. There is absolutely no need for that. He has brought the slackers back personally, leaving the CEO totally stunned. Suddenly, the heavy front door crashes wide open with a massive slam. The terrified secretary panics, wondering if a rival gang is launching an attack. Instead, Lee-jun stands in the doorway with two battered loan sharks. Dumped like trash. He calmly introduces himself as a helpful neighbor just returning some lost garbage. He insists there is absolutely no need to thank him for the favor. Furious, Peak One Man demands to know what is happening and who this lunatic is. Lee-jun scans the room, noting several armed goons guarding the boss. Undeterred, Lee-jun proudly announces that he is just a local pub owner. He says he only stopped by to clean up his beloved neighborhood. Peak One Man laughs him off as a fool who will pay dearly for this. Today will be the final day of his life for playing the hero. The boss orders his men to prepare a fresh grave for this idiot. He orders his bodyguards to tear this guy apart. As the armed thugs charge, Lee-jun challenges them to try their worst. They can try to overpower him if they think they can. Just like that, the notorious loan sharks completely vanish from the city streets. Now free from his overwhelming debt, Kim Hwan focuses entirely on his training. He prepares for dungeon runs and quickly gets noticed by the higher-ups. His skills earn him the title of the youngest team leader ever. At the same time, every last illegal business in the shadows collapses. They vanish without a single trace, making Kim Hwan realize the truth. He finally understands that the sudden peace is due to one specific person. The powerful master has finally arrived in their city. His presence did not just help Kim Hwan, it brought order back. Back at the pub, Lee-jun asks why they are staring at him. He tells them the bar is closed and they should head home. Once the place is quiet, Lee-jun sighs over the messy cleanup. It is definitely a good thing he pays for solid property insurance. Peace never lasts long around here, and all this fighting makes him hungry. He decides to cook some warm ramen before calling it a night. Walking out of the pub, he spots a small body lying on the cold ground. It is a young child shivering right at the tavern entrance. Staring in shock, he watches as the crying girl begs her father to wake up. The struggling father weakly calls her his precious little princess. Clutched tightly in his hand is a small birthday present for her. She sobbed that she knew how hard he worked to raise her alone. She tells him she is incredibly grateful and so proud to be his daughter. Through tears, he holds his precious little daughter tight. Asked if he was hurting, the man softly replied that he felt no pain. He was simply overjoyed to be her father, prompting the smiling girl to call it a wonderful answer. Suddenly, a beautiful wristwatch appeared right on the man's wrist. He loved it, calling it a truly magnificent gift. It was a gorgeous timepiece, and he promised to take absolute care of it. Suddenly, Lee-jun opened his eyes and realized it was all just a dream. Then a small child appeared right before him, making him jump straight out of bed. Heart pounding from the scare, Lee-jun tried to figure out who she was. He quickly recognized her as the unconscious girl he rescued from his tavern doorstep yesterday. He gently assured the young girl that she did not need to thank him. He simply could not leave an unconscious child lying out in the cold street. Quietly, the girl raised 2 fingers and stretched her hand forward. Lee-jun told her she could stay and rest until her strength returned. But get this, she silently jabs her fingers straight into our hero's eyes. He cried out in pure shock and sudden pain. 10 minutes before this disaster, everyone in the room had been fast asleep. Lee-jun slept on the floor while the girl began to stir in his bed. While he snoozed peacefully, young Lee Ruri sat up and let out a big stretch. She quietly whispered a good morning, looking around the unfamiliar room with total confusion. Wondering where on earth she was, Lee Ruri noticed how incredibly soft the bed felt. It was amazingly fluffy, but her eyes quickly drifted down to the hard floor. Who was he? Terror instantly gripped her. Lee Ruri remembered her mentor's strict warning that the outside world was full of perverts. Her master warned her never to go anywhere with dangerous strangers. They would lock her away and do all kinds of terrible, unspeakable things. Back then, Lee Ruri had asked what she should do if she ever got caught. Her mentor, Iro, had told her to poke the scoundrel right in the eyes. After blinding him, she was supposed to deliver a brutal kick between his legs. Now, Lee Ruri wondered if this was the exact kidnapping her mentor warned about. Just then, young Lee-jun stirred, making her realize her captor was waking up. Terrified, the girl panicked, completely unsure of what she should do next. Remembering her mentor's instructions, she decided to strike the sleeping stranger. She struck a terrible start to his day. Nursing his throbbing eyes, he yelled to ask what she was doing. Boldly, she replied that she was simply punishing the vile kidnapper who stole her. Wait, what? He argued it was not a kidnapping. He explained how he had found her completely passed out in front of his pub. He only brought her inside so she could safely rest and recover. Still suspicious, the girl argued that moving an unconscious person is still abduction. Yun Lee-jun sighed, explaining that context matters when saving a life. He then asked why she had to poke him in the eyes of all places. That move really hurt, and any normal person would have easily gone blind. She simply insisted that her mentor, Iro, said it was the correct response. She was convinced she did everything right, leaving him completely speechless. With tears streaming down his face, he desperately wondered who this crazy mentor was. Covering his eyes, the young master wondered if she was crazy. Why did he bring her home and even give up his own bed? He should have left her on the street. Meanwhile, Lee Ruri was just enjoying the cozy room and the warm shelter. Maybe getting kidnapped was not such a bad thing. Yun Lee-jun sighed and repeated that this was not a kidnapping. The door was completely open, and she could leave whenever she wanted. But Lee Ruri did not move, making Yun Lee-jun ask why. She remained despite being entirely free to go. The little girl lowered her head, softly admitting that she simply had no idea what she was supposed to do or where to go. Suddenly, her stomach growled loudly, and Lee Ruri admitted she was hungry. Smiling, he gently ruffled her hair and promised they would eat first. He quickly headed to the kitchen to prepare a meal for her. He told the little troublemaker to sit patiently for a few minutes. He planned to cook something delicious, using only the best ingredients. Lee Ruri watched quietly, her stomach still growling with hunger. Before long, a sweet strawberry roll appeared on the table. Taking a small bite of the sweet treat, she smiled happily. It was incredibly soft and sweet, introducing her to a brand new flavor. Yun Lee-jun and Min-jun watched her closely. Lee Ruri kept exclaiming how amazing the roll tasted. The local sheriff noticed that the little girl had quite an appetite. Yun Lee-jun wondered how she fit it, especially since they had just eaten a huge meal. Just 1 hour ago, but Min-jun saw nothing unusual. Not surprising. Everyone knows there is a separate stomach for dessert. The orc priest Kim Dokbi entered the tavern. He mentioned how much he loved seeing children eat so well. It turned out he had even bought a sweet roll. Yun Lee-jun asked Min-jun if she had found what he requested. She replied that neither the local police nor the sheriff had received any reports of a missing elf child. The orc also asked local residents, but nobody had ever seen her. Yun Lee-jun wondered if he should take her to an orphanage, but Min-jun warned against it. That would be a mistake, surprising the owner, Kim Dokbi. Noted that those orphanages were very difficult to maintain. since they were mostly built for human children. Because of that, half-human children often get bullied there, Min-jun added. She pointed out that the girl did not look like a pure elf. Being a half-breed meant neither humans nor elves would truly welcome her. Hearing this, the master asked what he should do. How was he supposed to take care of her now? The priest suggested looking for other options, but for now, the master must. They want him to look after her. Lee-jun is absolutely stunned. Why him of all people, the sheriff asks. She wonders if the master will really abandon the child at an orphanage. Kim Dok-bae agrees, adding that it would be way too cruel. Lee-jun retorts that it is easy for them to talk from the sidelines. Raising a child is not that simple. Little Lee-rari tells her uncle the role is delicious, suggesting they share it. Lee-jun smiles, picks up a fork, and eagerly agrees. He wants to test if the food is truly that good. Meanwhile, Kim Dok-bae wonders aloud if the master will keep her. He questions if the tavern owner will let the girl stay. Min-jun replies she is 100% sure, then questions the priest. She asks why he is drinking rice wine, as Kim Dok-bae grabs the bottle. He proudly calls the drink his absolute favorite. He cannot handle strong liquor anyway. His sister is way tougher, which instantly triggers Min-jun. She had repeatedly warned him never to call her his big sister. Kim Dok-bae argues he is only 26, which makes the sheriff older. Since she is older, that technically makes her his nuna. Min-jun snaps that the orc is teasing her, hating every second of it. She cannot believe a priest with a face like his is younger. It makes absolutely no sense, and she refuses to buy it. Drinking alcohol seems highly improper for a priest, making the whole situation bizarre. Kim Dok-bae calmly urges her to just accept reality. Min-jun grumbles in annoyance, while Lee-rari takes a bowl of food outside. She places it on the ground as a nearby kitten meows happily. The stray happily digs in, and the girl sees how starving he was. Lee-rari wonders if his mother left him behind to live on his own. From the doorway, Lee-jun watches the tender scene unfold. He observes the young girl sweetly talking to the cat. The master senses she might truly be communicating with the creature. This stray has always been incredibly shy, never approaching another human. Yet he accepted food from her so easily, which makes him wonder. Just then, a gate appears. The sheriff notes these gates belong to their guild. Kim Hwan sighs, answering that he is already well aware of that. The hunter mentions that the association dumped way too many zones on them. Because of this excessive load, their roster is dangerously short-handed. They simply lack the personnel, but the sheriff sees a different issue. To her, this just means endless hours of forced overtime. Kim Hwan grumbles that overtime is nothing compared to losing his day off. He was dragged out of bed, but the commander interrupts with updates. The anomaly has not gone wild yet, and the combat team stands ready. They deploy instantly, surrounding the swirling portal with weapons drawn. Min-jun and Kim Hwan watch the threat mutate. The countdown begins, and soon, Commander Lai issues the order. Captain Lee Yunyong shouts that the gate has gone berserk, and then, total chaos. Armed monsters pour out of the rift as hunters launch their counterattack. They fight hard to stop the beasts from flooding the city. Sheriff Min-young jumps into action to keep order with her deadly fire magic. She unleashes blazing bursts directly at the monsters. Min-young mutters that these noisy things smell absolutely rancid. Captain Lee Yunyong orders all squads to shoot to kill. Hunters open fire with heavy automatic rifles, blasting the beasts back. Beside them, Kim Hwan charges forward with his blade drawn, cutting down enemies. He lands precise, devastating blows. He knows one slip-up in this horde could be fatal. With so many beasts, he cannot afford to drop his guard. Min-young sweeps her flames. She turns the battlefield into an absolute inferno, like a human flamethrower. Kim Hwan teases the sheriff for showing off like she is doing all the work. Minyoung shoots back that at least she looks incredibly cool doing it. On a whim, the hunter and the sheriff decide to make a little bet. The one with fewer goblin kills has to buy the drinks tonight. Kim Hwan jokes that he is looking forward to drinking on her tab tonight. In the end, Minyoung kills one fewer goblin. At the bar, Minyoung sadly admits defeat, staring at her drinks. Kim Hwan happily toasts to her health, enjoying a drink on her tab. Minyoung snaps back in annoyance, while Lee-jun pours another glass. The bar owner mentions that gate breaches are just everyday trouble now. Minyoung calls for another round, just as Lee-jun welcomes a new guest. She spots the newcomer and instantly does a massive spit take right at Kim Hwan. Kim Hwan curses and demands to know what she is doing. Minyoung is wide-eyed, asking herself what on earth the chairman is doing here. Sure enough, the powerful Hunter Association chairman has just walked into the bar. The old man smiles warmly, telling them he is truly delighted to see them again. He is pleased to see his former classmates still hanging out together after so long. The mood shifts. Kim Hwan still looks incredibly tense as he formally greets the formidable visitor. This is the legendary S-rank hunter and association leader, Baek Cheolgu. Baek Cheolgu apologizes for dropping by so late, but says it is urgent. He needs a private word with the owner of the bar. He asks them to step outside for a few minutes. Minyoung is shocked, wondering how the barkeep could possibly know such a powerhouse. Kim Hwan stands up, saying they were just getting ready to head out anyway. Minyoung whines because she just ordered and they still have food left. Kim Hwan tells her that the association chief is asking them to go. Baek Cheolgu apologizes for the rude disruption. To make up for it, he offers to pay their bill. Minyoung immediately brightens up, thrilled she is saving some money. Kim Hwan quickly points out that their bet is still very much on. She still owes him for the next round. Lee-jun tells young Rurai to go. The girl heads upstairs while staring intently at the stern-faced chairman. Lee Rurai squinted and smiled warmly at the chairman. The old man couldn't help but smile right back at her. She burst into the room, shouting that the slime baby was escaping as fast as possible. Baek Cheolgu just laughed, noting how energetic she was. The tavern owner set a glass before the chairman and asked if he wanted just 2 fingers of straight vodka. Baek Cheolgu nodded, genuinely pleased that the master still remembered his order. Baek Cheolgu remarked to the owner that it had been a very long time since they last met. Hunters make up only 1% of the population, a truly elite class. Blessed with awakened powers, their strength alone can match the monstrous beasts. Spreading across the globe, to survive, humanity formed a powerful alliance, building a system designed to keep civilization alive. The brave souls hunting these beasts became known as hunters, joining forces inside powerful guilds, but as portals and dungeons began spawning everywhere, even these elites found themselves pushed past their absolute limits. Unleashed monsters poured from uncleared dungeons into the human world, triggering bizarre anomalies that the Hunters Association officially labeled as massive dungeon breaches and gate rampages. Only a dedicated group of hunters stepped up to contain these threats, leading to a major split in their entire profession. The ones focused on raiding dungeons remained standard frontline hunters. Meanwhile, others chose to work for the state as protective sheriffs, maintaining internal security, the legendary figure who enacted the safety laws to shield innocent citizens and restore order amidst the chaos. While leading the sheriffs was a legendary S-rank hunter. He was the guardian Baek Cheolgu, and there was one man this living legend called his sworn brother, none other than the tavern owner, Lee-jun. Lee-jun asked how Baek Cheolgu tracked him down. The old man smiled. He was the Hunters Association chairman, so he naturally kept close tabs. On his brother's return, Baek Cheolgu took a sip, praising the outstanding top-shelf drink poured by his old friend. Honestly, the wild part is that Lee-jun was not even hiding. He openly hunted corrupt, awakened criminals, earning himself the terrifying nickname Mad Dog. Naturally, he absolutely loathed that name. With so many cool and flashy titles available, why did they choose something so savage? Like Mad Dog, the amused chairman claimed total innocence. Lee-jun sighed, admitting the name simply rubbed him the wrong way. Bae Chialgu pointed out that his brother still did a major favor by keeping peace in the capital city, but the owner brushed off the praise, telling him to save his thanks, he only cleared out the local troublemakers. Bae Chialgu pondered the passing time, wondering exactly how many years had slipped by since Lee-jun set off to search for Soa. The tavern owner quietly confirmed that exactly 20 long years had passed. At their meeting, Lee-jun notes that time flies. He asks his brother if his sense of taste and smell has returned yet. Chialgu admits he still cannot distinguish any scents or flavors. Lee-jun remarks there is no point in treating him to premium liquor but Chialgu objects. He still feels the strength of alcohol and the heavy buzz. He can easily tell cheap vodka from high-grade stuff. In the old days, he would jump out of bed at the mere mention of wine. Why make such a fuss? Chialgu has zero regrets by sacrificing his sense of smell and taste. His other senses grew razor sharp. This made him far stronger. He then asks if Lee-jun has finally found Soa. The master admits that stubborn girl is still missing, with zero clues on where she might have run off to. Chialgu asks how long he intends to keep up this search. 20 years have already passed since she vanished. Lee-jun tells his brother to shut up, refusing to even think of anything bad, adding that he will only stop looking when he dies. Chialgu laughs, admitting he thought his brother had retired, but that sharp, powerful aura has not softened a single bit. He notes his older brother has not aged at all. He heard rumors, but his brother looks identical to 20 years ago. Lee-jun tells Chialgu to stop rambling and get straight to the point of his visit. What does he actually want? Chialgu asks if a younger brother cannot just visit his older brother. Lee-jun is skeptical, since when did he become so sentimental? If that were true, he would have shown up here a year ago. Chialgu smiles and confesses that is only half true. Suddenly, Lee-ruri rushes into her uncle's arms, complaining that she is starving. She climbs on his shoulders, grabbing his hair, demanding he cook up something incredibly delicious. Lee-jun tells her to get off him immediately, but the girl keeps demanding food, so he quickly prepares some hot rice with fresh seafood and mixed vegetables on the stove. Lee-ruri sniffs the air, admitting it smells absolutely delicious. She eagerly urges her uncle to hurry up. Lee-jun warns her that if she does not sit still, she will not get a single bite. He stays focused on the cooking under her watchful, adoring eyes. Meanwhile, Chialgu asks if he has heard of the artificial hunter project. Lee-jun wonders if it is like the old days when the devil men mass-produced gifted individuals. The old man confirms it, noting there is just one tiny difference. Back then, their goal was to artificially awaken people from. Now they aim to mutate low-rank hunters, dragging them up to the high ranks. Chialgu asks if his brother knows about mana poisoning. Lee-jun notes a victim actually stopped by his pub recently. The chairman steps in, adding that this is a classic side effect of modification. It comes from mutating the human body with monster flesh or blood. If the symptoms worsen, the poor test subject completely breaks down. They lose their mind and mutate into a devil human. The odds of survival are incredibly slim. But with the right genes, they become an insanely powerful awakened. Their rank jumps by 1 level, or even 2 if a miracle happens. Given how twisted this is, demon men are definitely pulling the strings. The chairman mentions his people are still actively investigating. No solid proof yet, but the circumstantial evidence is piling up. Chialgu urges his brother to listen carefully to what comes next. He needs to hear the absolute worst of it. The core goal of this project is boosting powers through body modification. But get this, some truly horrifying information just came to light. It is about the homunculus, the child in the Flask project. These monsters are kidnapping innocent refugee children from other worlds. They alter their genes, crossbreeding them with beasts to grow unnatural creations. Lee-jun is furious. How could anyone mess with nature like this? He highly doubts they are even getting any viable results. Even natural breeding between humans, elves, and orcs is incredibly rare. Yet these mad scientists are mixing creatures that are totally incompatible. Chialgu agrees that the whole twisted process is bound to fail. Almost all the children created this way die in under a month. Only 1 in 100 survives to reach a single year. Absolutely sickening, only pure psychopaths are capable of doing this. Lee-jun feels a deep, heavy pit of regret in his chest. But why is the chairman sharing this dark secret now? After all, he retired from being a hunter and has no need to know. Chialgu cuts in, asking about the girl his brother recently took in. Is her name Lee Ruri? They used every contact to find her records. The chairman admits that despite mobilizing all of his intelligence connections for a dossier, he found absolutely 0 records on her. Lee-jun asks if this is a problem, and the chairman nods. It has been 30 years since the dimensional gates opened. The government administrative system has been fully streamlined since then. They live in a modern era where half-humans cannot possibly hide. Yet there is not a single trace of this little girl anywhere. Chialgu points out that this leaves them with only 2 real options. Either she is a stray refugee or a subject from that Flask project. The chairman quickly clarifies that this is just his personal theory. In all likelihood, she is just a normal refugee who got lost. Sometimes people just have bad luck and slip through a random portal. Accident and somehow ended up on this side. Chialgu suggested that if something extraordinary were to happen, it would not be a problem for someone like Big Brother. He quickly downed his glass. Our chairman said he warned Lee-jun just in case. The tavern owner thanked him. The chairman admitted that the drink was excellent and bid him farewell, promising to drop by for a visit soon. Lee-jun thought Chialgu was pretty sly. He left quietly without paying. The chef said the kimchi fried rice was ready and the young girl could start eating. Lee Ruri tasted it, absolutely loving it. Honestly, who knew fried kimchi could taste this unbelievably good? She added that it was so good she simply could not stop eating. Lee-jun joked that it could not be any other way since he had cooked it himself. Thinking back to his conversation with the chairman, Lee-jun thought that whatever the truth was, there was no safe place left for this girl to rest peacefully except this pub. Firefighters rushed in right after the first emergency call. The entire house was engulfed in flames. Several floors were already burning. Fear filled the mother's eyes as she screamed her daughter's name, Jihyo. Explaining that the child was still inside, she gave the room number and begging them to save her. One of the firefighters was terrified. Could the child really still be inside? He told the captain she needed to be pulled out immediately. The captain replied that it was absolutely impossible to go in right now. The firefighter protested that he could not just stand by and watch. They could not sit there and do nothing. Hadn't they become firefighters to save people? The captain ordered Kim Jin-soo to pull himself together. Had he forgotten how Yoon Siwoo died just 1 month ago? Escape from such a hellish scene. The captain added that they must know the difference between courage and recklessness. He refused to allow any more senseless losses. Kim Jin-soo stood before the roaring flames. completely powerless to do anything. Talk about perfect timing. Sheriff Min-young suddenly arrived on the scene. She ordered everyone to step aside, promising to save the child. She confirmed. If the child was still inside, the commander stared in shock. What was she saying? The danger in there was extreme. Min-young flashed her hunter license, saying she was in a major hurry. They could skip the formalities right now. Was still trapped in that fifth-floor room. Min-young thanked him for the info. The firefighter asked his captain if they should stop her. But his captain replied she would be fine since she was a B rank. Hunter, she was an absolute superhuman, whom ordinary citizens are not even allowed to judge. Suddenly, there was a massive explosion, sending burning debris flying in all directions. A woman screams and rushes toward the fire, but a firefighter holds her back. Shortly after, the sheriff emerges from the flames, cradling a child in her arms. Min-young quickly reports that the girl is fine, and the mother rushes over. Min-young tells her there is no need to worry, explaining the girl only lost consciousness briefly from inhaling smoke. The woman gratefully thanks the sheriff for saving her child, while Min-young spots a suspicious-looking man in the crowd, wishing he was not there. She knows she is really in for it now. At the bar, the bartender mixes a drink, combining brandy, orange liqueur, and lemon juice, shaking everything up thoroughly. The result is a beautifully sweet, sour, and tempting sidecar cocktail. S-rank Sheriff Kim Min-soo declares that the drink is simply excellent. He adds that these cocktails always seem to have the perfect balance. Lee-jun replies that it has to be perfect since he made them himself, while Min-young wonders why their host is being so shameless. Lee-jun jokingly asks who is grumbling over there, making his ears itch, while Kim Min-soo asks if Min-young still holds a grudge. Her shift ended hours ago, and it is time for her to relax. Min-young admits that acting alone during the surveillance operation was a huge mistake, but she simply could not stand by and watch a kid die right in front of her. Kim Min-jun says she did everything right. However, Min-young is still angry at the captain. She complains that the captain always acts like a major big shot, even though he does not know the first thing about working on Earth. Yet today he lectured her for half an hour. Min-young asks if a hunter's rank decides everything, and how someone without common sense can be in charge. She remarks that Kim Min-jun should take the captain's place, adding that his skills and track record are by far the best. But Kim Min-jun humbly points out that he is only a C rank. Even if their job is considered desk work, they are still hunters, and hunters will not listen to someone weaker than themselves. Min-young insists that is not true, since she always listens to Kim Min-jun. He gently repeats that he believes the brave girl did the right thing back there. Without her, they would not have been able to save that little girl. It was unlikely a hunter with heat-resistant skin would randomly pass by. Kim Min-jun notes that his own daughter could easily have been in that situation, and the mere thought of it is terrifying. Still, knowing that Min-young is around to help brings him immense peace of mind. He tells her not to worry about any punishment. There will be no disciplinary action, as normal police can handle surveillance. Checking his watch, he mentions that it is finally time for him to head home, leaving Min-young surprised by his quick departure. He has only finished one quick drink after all. Kim Min-jun explains he needs to check something before going home since it is his daughter's birthday tomorrow. Kim Min-soo wanted to head out early to finish up his paperwork, prompting Min-young to think of her own little girl. She wished him luck. Kim Min-soo noticed her untouched glass. He suggested that she head home early. Min-young agreed, asking him to tell young Hyun-jun she missed her. He promised he would pass it along before leaving. Observing him, Lee-jun remarked that the senior was an incredible mentor, and Min-young agreed, adding that he was the sheriff she respected most of all. Though his hunter rank was forever stuck at sea, he was one of the very few who deserved to be called a real lawman. Lee-jun noted that you cannot judge a person by rank. Min-young agreed, asking for a sidecar. Make it a double. Suddenly chaos. Sheriff Kim Min-soo is slumped on the hard ground, covered in blood. A brutal criminal looms, declaring that hunters are the real villains. The thug, gripping a baseball bat, sneers that hunters are just born lucky, gaining power without ever lifting a finger. They live comfortably on massive salaries, while the villain adds that he also wants to live by his own rules. He warns the sheriff to stay out of his way, screaming at the lawman to speak up, say something, anything. The silence only makes him seethe. Raising his bat, he snaps that acting tough will not save the bleeding hunter. Let us see how long he can last. The monster violently beats Kim Min-soo with the bat. Later, backup finally arrives, and a devastated Min-young begins inspecting the crime scene. Officers carefully collect evidence. Min-young clenches a poster of the wanted suspect in her shaking fist. At the hospital, his young daughter weeps, begging him to wake up. Kim Min-soo lies completely still on his bed, wearing an oxygen mask. The girl sobbed that today is her birthday. He had promised they would go to the amusement park and eat all kinds of delicious treats. The heartbroken girl weeps by his bedside. Kim Min-soo remains unconscious. Min-young quietly stands by the door of the ward, accompanied by the doctor. She asks how he is doing, and the physician replies that fortunately, he was found quickly after the attack. Additionally, a top-tier healer already closed up all of his external wounds. He looks completely normal in front of his worried family. However, his initial injuries were simply horrific, which is why he still remains deeply unconscious. Min-young is completely stunned. How can a doctor call this normal? He quickly apologizes, explaining that he worded the diagnosis badly. He only meant the patient looks physically unharmed. The little girl keeps crying, and Min-young seethes. The sheriff promised that the scumbag behind this would pay a heavy price for everything. Young Lee-jun quietly stepped inside the ward. Late at night, gently pulling a blanket over the sleeping girl. The doctor quietly checked the patient with an expert eye. He kept completely silent to avoid waking the girl. Lee-ruri stood nearby, warning him that the sheriff's sister was in danger right now. Young Lee-jun agreed with her completely, knowing she needed help. Incheon, the Cheonggu Industrial District, inside an old abandoned warehouse. A lone man sits eating instant noodles in the dark. Mangled, bloody bodies lie scattered all around him. Blood coats the floor as he mutters that shrimp ramen is best. Suddenly a voice calls his name, Ryu So-hyun, 37 years old. A male with 17 prior convictions who has never worked a real job, a true piece of trash who only hurts people during his violent, uncontrollable fits of rage. This profile is read aloud to the girl. Slowly walking toward the criminal, Sheriff Min-jun adds that a month ago, he stabbed an internet cafe owner just to dodge a tiny debt. After that, he smashed right through the police blockade, using his insane physical strength. Min-jun notes that because he is not in the registry of awakened ones, he is likely an illegal devil man who got modified in the shadows to take down this dangerous threat. A sheriff has been sent directly here. Ryu So-hyun stares at her, realizing she is the famous sheriff who saved a kid from that burning building. The bastard mocks her storytelling skills. Min-jun ignores him, confirming that the warehouse owner and his workers are dead. Ryu So-hyun is officially under arrest for assaulting a detective, trespassing, and dozens of other crimes. The killer laughs and claims she is acting way too arrogant. To a powerful awakened like her, normal folks probably look like bugs. Ryu So-hyun sneers, pointing out she came alone. Does she expect him to just surrender? The sheriff flashes her badge and commands him to Shut his mouth, he has the right to remain silent, and every single word he says will be used against him. She does not care about his lawyer. Suddenly, the criminal's eyes flare red. He snarls that everyone is the same, always forcing him to shut up and obey. They only look down on him because they were born lucky. Ryu Sohyan screams that she cannot ignore him, swinging his bat with wild rage. He is going to smash her head in right here. Min-jun quietly notes he finally made a move, at least she read him. His rights first, Min-jun easily dodges the swing and strikes back, landing a brutal punch to his ribs. Her next strike connects right on his jaw. Ryu Sohyan stumbles back, dropping his metal bat. Blood sprays from his lips as Min-jun presses her relentless attack. A direct kick to the head sends the criminal crashing down. The sheriff notices this smug scoundrel. He was talking big about luck and injustice. Is this really all he has got? Min-jun knows this punk beat a C-rank hunter to a bloody pulp. There is no way he is actually this weak. The sheriff reaches out, commanding the scoundrel to get up immediately. She has not even started warming up yet. Ryu Sohyan lifts his head and springs to his feet, screaming in pure rage. He swings wild, lunging straight at the sheriff, but Min-jun easily dodges. Calling him slow and clumsy, she lands another brutal series of blows. Ryu Sohyan can only cough up blood. Min-jun is genuinely confused. Is this guy seriously that weak? With another heavy blow, he flies back and crashes hard into the dirt. She walks over, asking why he is down. Min-jun kicks him, telling the trash to get back on his feet. Did he think it would be that easy? Ryu Sohyan glares back in fury. How dare she glare at him like that? The villain screams that she has absolutely no right to look down on him, and then a bright flash erupts as the criminal mutates into a hideous monster. It lunges forward, but Min-jun manages to slide back just in time. She counters with another heavy blow, but the monster barely even flinches from her strike. It strikes back, sending her flying far backward. Somehow she manages to stay on her feet, but she knows this opponent is different. The beast growls that the playtime is officially over. She is going to regret coming here, but Min-jun expected exactly this. This is its true demon form, no more sloppy moves, only terrifying acrobatic speed. Now that his hidden identity is out, the sheriff smiles. No more holding back now that everything has finally been confirmed. Min-jun ignites her intense fire skill, fully prepared to show him her true power. A massive fireball forms in her hand, and she hurls it instantly. The target takes a direct hit as blinding flames engulf its entire head. The explosive heat blast sends teeth flying everywhere, yet the beast shows no fear. Min-jun triggers her chain reaction, letting the inferno devour its body. Fierce flames wrap around it. But the sheriff quickly notices something off. The fire is dying down. She watches in shock as it eats the flames. Wait, is that even possible? It laughs, calling her a weak little pest. But he admits her fire is absolutely delicious. It mockingly thanks her, saying the energy boost was just what he needed. Min-jun immediately senses that the beast is moving much faster now. Its heavy attacks are gaining some intense speed. She barely blocks the precise blows. Eating fire only makes him stronger. Normal demons possess B-rank strength. But right now, this creature is pushing closer to a dangerous A-rank threat. No wonder Kim Min-soo lost. Min-jun quickly closes the distance. She closed the distance. A heavy punch landed right on his head. The monster simply laughed, telling her to strike him even harder next time. Ryu Sohyan wanted the sheriff to attack him with her flames once more. Min-jun realized the truth. This beast was clearly some kind of freak. Blows were traded rapidly. Neither fighter could gain any real upper hand. She had the speed advantage, but her opponent possessed far greater strength. The longer this dragged, the worse it became. She was quickly running out of steam. He used fire to regenerate. If a single blow connected, she was done. His fire was oppressive. It completely suppressed her awakened abilities. She hated admitting it. There was no way she could match this beast. Min-jun finally decided she had to accept this painful reality. Without facing the truth, finding a way to win was impossible. Focus was everything now. One solid hit from him would end the fight. The monster closed in. He mocked the sheriff for thinking so deeply. He asked what she was contemplating so intensely right in the middle of battle. But Min-jun only noticed his speed, increasing even more. Ryu Sohyan struck hard, sending the sheriff crashing to the ground. Searing pain flared. Sharp metal bars had pierced straight through her body. The monster sneered. They were all exactly the same. Everyone called him trash, despised him, and ignored him constantly. They thought he was worthless, but Ryu Sohyan knew he now had power. He had the absolute strength to grind those arrogant hunters into dust. Now nobody would ignore him. He stepped closer with a cruel grin. He asked if the defeated woman wanted to beg him for mercy. Perhaps he would feel generous and let her live after all. Min-jun slowly raised her hand and flipped the monster off instead. She called him pathetic, sending Ryu Sohyan into an absolute rage. He swung a heavy fist, lunging straight at the helpless sheriff. She closed her eyes. It was over. But nothing happened. Opening her eyes, she saw a surprising savior. The tavern owner, Lee-jun, stood directly between her and the monster. She was utterly shocked. What was the master doing here? Lee-jun reached out and grabbed the monster by the head. He squeezed tightly, completely catching the arrogant creature off guard. Lee-jun calmly asked who he even was. The master was furious. How dare this trash touch his precious client? Just then, Lee Ruri approached the injured sheriff. The young girl held a flask of liquid, explaining her uncle wanted her to deliver it. Min-jun realized it was a powerful healing potion. The sheriff accepted the vial, thanking Ruri for the help. The sheriff quietly mentioned that she had one small request for the young girl. She asked Ruri to cover her eyes with her hands and not peek. Min-jun knew that drinking this potion right now would instantly heal her shattered body. Pushing through the extreme agony, she slid off the metal bars as blood gushed. With renewed force, covering her wound with one hand, Min-jun downs the healing potion in one gulp. The injuries begin healing before her eyes. The sheriff can tell this potion is at least medium rank. Min-jun gently pats the girl's head and says she can open her eyes. Ruri thanks her and happily says she is feeling much better now. Lee-jun keeps holding the monster's arm as Ryu Sohyan desperately demands to be released. Instead, the master viciously slams the monster straight to the hard ground. He warns the demon that it would be wise not to resist. But the monster leaps back up, fire bursting from its mouth in pure rage. Ryu Sohyan swears he will never forgive him as he opens his jaws wide. He unleashes a massive stream of fire, but Lee-jun is completely unharmed. The master casually punches the demon right in the head, mockingly asking if that was really all his fire breath had. Min-jun pulls the girl close, utterly stunned by what she is seeing. Lee-jun blew away the massive flames with nothing but a simple gust of wind. Now the beast looks around wildly before Lee-jun suddenly appears right behind him, telling him he is way too careless. The master strikes the monster once more, sending him crashing into the floor. The master calls the beast incredibly rude and asks if he finally realizes what he did wrong. Ryu Sohyan whimpers in terror, stammering that he has no idea at all. The protagonist keeps beating the pathetic demon, lecturing him about showing proper respect and talking politely to his elders. The master sighs, realizing words are useless on a guy who just cannot learn. He admits he has always despised people who do not know their place. Lee-jun declares that the monster has made two massive mistakes. Ryu Sohyan screams that he did nothing wrong and blames this rotten world instead. Lee-jun kicks him hard, telling the demon to shut up and listen. He snaps that the demon shouldn't interrupt when adults are trying to speak. He asks who raised this creature to be so disrespectful and prepares a lesson. Lee-jun details the errors. First, he laid hands on a VIP customer, which is a major offense to the master's business. Second, this trash ruined a birthday party for a loving father, and his daughter. The brutal, systematic beatdown of the demon resumes instantly. Ryu Sohyun screams for mercy, finally admitting that he was completely in the wrong. Lee-jun simply continues, noting that third, he made the girl cry. Fourth, this whole situation has made him incredibly angry. Min-jun watches, saying, "The master might actually beat this creature to death right now." Still, the sheriff covers Ruri's eyes with her hands. Telling her not to look, the bloody monster weakly asks why he keeps hitting him when he only listed 2 mistakes earlier. Lee-jun stops, confused by the demon's weird sense of logic. The protagonist finally cools off and stands up. Below him, the bloodied demon lies completely still. He sighs in relief, while Min-jun watches in absolute disbelief. She never imagined seeing a powerful B-class demon get absolutely pulverized like this. Just bare hands, no special tricks, no magical cheats. Min-jun demanded to know who this master truly was, but he was busy checking the girl's injuries. Amazingly, her severe wounds had completely healed. She was even walking around already. But Min-jun insists other matters are way more important. Lee-jun told the stressed sheriff not to sweat the details. He was simply helping out a regular customer of his. Lee-jun turned back, asking the sheriff a single question. She already knows exactly who he is, right? He is just a simple local pub owner after all, walking out the... Lee-jun shrugs. If she feels like she owes him, she can visit his pub more often. Lee-jun tells the girl it is time to head back home. Meanwhile, Min-jun is left sitting in the quiet warehouse, her mind absolutely flooded with endless questions she cannot answer. Meanwhile, the sick man's daughter stays by his bedside in the quiet hospital room until the father finally opens his eyes and spots his sleeping daughter nearby. Kim Min-soo weakly smiles, telling her he must have given her quite a scare. Jolting awake, the girl sees her father conscious and instantly throws her arms around him. Meanwhile, Iro and Lee Ruri sprint down the corridor as Iro urgently shouts that they are almost out. Ruri must keep up. Iro orders Lee Ruri to go ahead first, and the girl nods in agreement. Iro watches her run, seeing Lee Ruri reach the entrance of the next room. But turning back, Iro faces a massive, terrifying beast. Lee Ruri screams, screaming for Iro to run away with her as fast as she possibly can. Instead, Iro swallows a pill, urging the crying girl to listen very closely. If she gets caught again, they will treat her worse than a lab rat. She must escape immediately, running as far as possible so she can finally live happily in true freedom. Iro then turns, facing the monstrous beast, while Lee Ruri watches in absolute horror. Iro smashes the combination lock on the wall, slamming the heavy door shut. She yells through the steel that blocking this exit will buy her plenty of time. To escape, Lee Ruri bursts into deep tears, sobbing and asking why her beloved mentor cannot come along. Bracing for the brutal fight, Iro tells her that she is smart enough to know what happens next. The mentor begs her one last time to run away as fast as possible. Lee Ruri stands completely frozen, tears streaming down her pale cheeks. The girl rushes to the closed door, sobbing. This was not supposed to happen. After all, Iro promised they would escape together. Lee Ruri continues sobbing, repeating her mentor's final words. Soon, morning comes. Lee-jun is fast asleep in his bed, mumbling that those old clothes will not fit him anymore. Meanwhile, Lee Ruri has been awake for hours. She grabs a pillow to hurl at her uncle's head. Lee-jun opens his eyes and calls the girl a little rascal. Lee Ruri simply wishes her uncle a good morning. Lee-jun snatches the pillow and chases after her, reminding the girl that he had already warned her not to chuck pillows at a sleeping guy's face. Little Lee Ruri was 12 now. The truth was, this little girl was keeping an incredibly dark secret about her bizarre past. She was actually created inside a hidden laboratory by a shady group. And that strange, experimental background made her incredibly sensitive to local mana currents since birth. Her instincts were razor-sharp, always flagging trouble before it even started. When a nearby dungeon gate went completely out of control, she felt space itself tearing apart. Suddenly, a warning alert popped up right on his smartphone screen. That dangerous gate was active again. A massive mana surge was detected nearby, and Ruri claimed the scarred man would arrive today. Lee-jun agreed, but asked how she could possibly foresee that. Ruri just shrugged, telling her uncle to mind his own business. To be fair, ever since Ruri first arrived here, she had been a massive help around the place. Iro always said she must work to survive. And the only reliable uncle she had left was named Lee-jun. She had no idea how old he was since he never talked about himself. People just called him the pub owner, a pretty strange guy with a good heart. He was genuinely a good guy. He loved to tease everyone, but he never crossed the line with them. Ruri had never seen him actually hurt anyone. Whenever monsters or bandits caused trouble nearby, he would head out alone to deal with them. She once secretly followed him and witnessed his absurd strength. Honestly, he is basically a real-life fairy tale hero. He had even saved Sheriff Min-jun when she was in deep trouble. Ruri definitely played a major role in that. Her special potion made sure the sisters' wounds vanished completely without a trace. Ruri realized she genuinely liked her uncle. Even though he grumbled, he always did what she asked. When Ruri called her uncle a softie, Lee-jun got defensive. He slammed down her plate of food, asking if she was looking for a fight. Then he told her to just shut up and eat, while the girl happily thanked him. Ruri knew her uncle would never actually refuse her any request. Even while complaining, he still did everything, and on top of that, his cooking was legendary. It was easily the most delicious food she had ever eaten, but the pub had no menu. She assumed the lazy owner just didn't want to make one. After she cleared her plate, Lee-jun ordered her to soak all the dirty dishes. But instead of washing up, Ruri immediately ran straight over to the bar. She sat right next to the regular customers. While Sheriff Min-jun and Kim Hwan watched, she boldly demanded a cold drink of her own. But her uncle shut her down, telling her she was way too young. He laughed and said she would have to wait at least 10 more years. But Ruri kept complaining, begging her uncle to make her a special drink. Just to nag. Lee-jun could only sigh at how incredibly noisy she was. Min-jun offers to mix up a non-alcoholic drink for her. Lee-jun objects it is not about the money, but they cannot just spoil her. Ruri gets easily offended and turns away, clearly annoyed. She huffs that her uncle is a real fool, leaving Lee-jun scratching his head. In defeat, he soft-heartedly agrees that one glass would not hurt, starting the recipe. First comes the ice, then ginger ale to the brim, with a splash of sweet syrup. He finishes with a sweet cherry, setting the glass down on the table. Lee-jun presents the Shirley Temple, calling it the ultimate drink for mimicking adults. He explains it is named after Hollywood's most famous child star, the legendary little icon who ruled 1930s Hollywood. Being the only child at fancy parties, she could not touch alcohol. So a clever bartender crafted the world's very first mocktail. Just for her, though Lee-jun notes the exact recipe remains a secret. To this day, for Ruri, this is the first mocktail she has ever tasted. Taking a sip, her eyes light up at the deliciously sweet, tangy flavor. He smiles, mentioning it is mostly just syrup and that she can easily make it next time. She instantly shakes her head, insisting that she will definitely make him prepare it. Minjun jokingly points out that no amount of explaining will save him from making it. He will definitely be stuck mixing this drink for her every single time. Ruri happily declares that her uncle is the absolute best because he always listens. She quietly mentions that she just shared a deeply personal secret. If the full truth gets out, she will have to run away. Or worse, they might abandon her on the cold streets again. Pressing a finger to her lips, she warns him to keep it completely quiet. Meanwhile, we cut to a bright, sunlit gym filled with heavy iron. Inside, a young guy strains hard to lift a loaded barbell, trying to heave it off the floor. With one final, agonizing push, he miraculously pulls it all the way up. Standing tall, he triumphantly holds the weight and shouts that he did it. He is absolutely thrilled, and his gym buddy walks over to praise him. His buddy grins, happily pointing out that he knew his friend would crush it. This is a major personal milestone, a deadlift of 120 kilograms. The lifter admits it took a whole year of grueling consistency to reach this point, working out 3 times a week without ever taking a single break. Just as he wonders if he is finally an expert, a voice interrupts. A girl asks if the platform is free, and he politely says yes, offering to quickly unload the heavy plates for her. But she stops him, calmly stating that the current weight is perfect. Both guys stare in absolute shock as she walks up to the platform. He tries to warn her that it is extremely heavy, but she ignores him, simply wrapping her hands around the massive steel bar. With effortless ease, she pulls the heavy weight straight up, executing the lift flawlessly with his hard-earned max, leaving the guys standing there completely speechless. Their mouths hung open in pure shock. They couldn't believe she lifted that weight over 10 times. Minjun stayed focused, completely ignoring the onlookers. She wondered who he really was. How could anyone watch him and believe he was merely a regular pub owner? A retired B rank, she couldn't track his speed. That swiftness had to be at least a rank level. His restorative potion was clearly top tier, causing 0 side effects. Waking up to train without any stiffness was the ultimate proof. That medicine was easily worth 5 million. Minjun hated owing anyone. Living in debt was not her style. But she already owed her master, with no way to pay him back. Frustrated, she shouted aloud, "Who is that man?" The onlookers gossiped that she lifted 120 kilos 38 times. That was incomprehensible, leading them to think she was a hunter. Suddenly, Minjun answered a call about the Yeonsun District Orc Quarter. A news broadcast reported the alarmingly rapid spread of a new religion. Rumors claimed a major guild was secretly backing the organization. There were reports of a massive gathering. A camera crew was already on the scene. Meanwhile, Kim Hwan walked indifferently through the crime scene, chewing gum as usual. A bloodied man sat lifelessly on the floor, clutching an ID card. Kim Hwan calmly surveyed the area. Minjun stood nearby, pointing out the extreme brutality of the murder. Countless stab wounds covered the body, suggesting pure rage. This crime was clearly driven by an absolute, burning hatred. The strikes were so deep they pierced straight through the victim's bones. Only someone with elite weapon skills and massive power could do this. Our sheriff chimed in if he defeated a D-rank hunter. The culprit was definitely no civilian, meaning a rogue hunter was responsible. Minjun questioned if that was why Kim Hwan had called her. He nodded, confirming the victim was indeed one of their own. With a hunter suspect, normal police would be completely useless anyway. Kim Hwan smirked, noting it was great to make his sheriff friend work. She rolled her eyes, promising to buy him drinks for this. According to Hwan, the body was found at 7 that morning. An employee stumbled upon the gruesome corpse while opening up the building. Surprisingly, the property actually belonged to the Tiger Guild. Minhan noted they had started immediately. Setting up a perception suppression barrier, to keep civilians out. They needed to avoid rumors, keeping the investigation tightly under wraps. Only a select few within the guild knew what had happened. Min-jun agreed with their approach, but Kim H-wan quickly interjected. The guild leader had already begun questioning close acquaintances. This wasn't the first time they had dealt with such brutality. 7 confirmed cases already, and every single victim turned out to be a C-rank hunter or lower. All their bodies were dumped near the orc settlement. The killer's identity is still a mystery, but they suspect he is at least a B-rank. Min-jun points out that lately, whenever trouble brews, there is always a B-rank hunter involved. Those elites only make up 20% of the total population. Where did so many suddenly come from? Did the elite crowd just have a massive population boom? Kim H-wan adds another bizarre detail. People do not usually talk about this, but hunters actually kill each other all the time. After all, controlling the awakened is pretty much impossible, but these clashes almost always happen inside dungeons. Sheriff Min-young agrees. If you clear the dungeon, the entire crime scene vanishes without a trace. But Kim H-wan notes that this killer deliberately picked a crowded area for the murder. It means he either could not use a dungeon or had some twisted goal in mind. Min-young suggests he might have registered under a fake name. Kim H-wan admits that is highly possible. He could be an unregistered awakened, or maybe someone who lied straight to the association about his true power level. But reporting your actual rank honestly is every hunter's absolute duty, otherwise you are watched as a major risk. The victim is Cho Min-hyuk, 21 years old, a D-rank hunter, 3 days ago. His guild called him in for a dungeon raid, but he never showed up. From that moment on, he was marked as missing until his body was found. Kim H-wan notes that as a melee fighter, he was in peak physical shape. Everyone expected this promising rookie to reach C-rank soon, since he was the youngest member of the squad. Kim H-wan mutters that if it were up to him, he would hunt down the killer himself, but he has a dungeon raid to lead in exactly 2 hours. So he is leaving the hunt in capable hands. Sheriff Min-young warns him that taking the law into your own hands is a massive crime. It would cause total chaos if every regular hunter started acting like a vigilante. Kim H-wan backs off, smiling, and says he is counting on her. The sheriff snaps some crime scene photos and logs the evidence. Everything is ready. Min-young wraps up her notes. Now it is time to head out for a scout mission, but she knows that outsiders are not welcome in the orc district, so she needs backup. Min-jun decides to call priest Kim Dokbi. That guy knows the orc slums like the back of his hand, and he will not back down, even to an elite B rank. Lee-jun steps up, asking the sheriff if she wants him to tag along for the investigation in the orc slums. She immediately says yes. But the master completely shuts it down. Not happening. Min-jun is told to go home, though Lee-jun warns it will be. It was way too much trouble. Why would he even bother? In the orc quarter, the locals claimed that no half-breeds ever associated with outsiders around there. Min-jun sighed. She honestly had not expected any other answer. Lee-jun tag-teamed with her on this case, but his temper flared. He snarled at the orcs to spill everything they knew right now. Otherwise, things would get ugly. The orcs were terrified. They knew exactly who they were dealing with, a mad dog's the kind of psycho ready to tear apart anyone he did not like. An orc whispered that this crazy bastard never forgets a single face. Never. But the truth was they knew nothing. They were out on some mission in far-off lands for several days and had only returned to the settlement that morning. Lee-jun scoffed. If they were clueless, why were they stalling? It was just annoying. Min-jun was stunned. Did they really call her boss the mad dog? Lee-jun shrugged. They sure did. The sheriff suggested they keep moving the investigation to see if anything fishy was happening here. The tavern owner praised her work. She was doing great. So in that case, could he just go home? They kept grilling the locals. Everyone had some story to tell while the duo pressed forward. Min-jun asked the questions, while Lee-jun threw around threats whenever necessary. Their investigation dragged on. The sheriff pointed out they had been pounding the pavement for 4 long hours now, without finding anything useful. Lee-jun muttered that he would have been better off at home, drinking a cold beer and watching the national song contest. Thankfully, he brought a flask along with him. Suddenly, Min-jun spotted an old, familiar face chatting with one of the residents. The sheriff recognized him. It was Kim Dokbi, the priest and the local resident. Finished their talk and split up peacefully. The detectives moved in. The priest had not noticed them yet. Kim Dokbi was deep in thought when a familiar voice behind him asked what was going on. Was there some kind of trouble? Kim Dokbi spun around and was shocked to see Min-jun standing right before him. The priest noted that the tavern owner had arrived just in time too. He figured this visit was connected to why the sheriff was here. The trio noticed a group of orcs hiding under heavy hoods. They were all staring intently in the exact same direction, listening closely to a speaker. Their leader preached that their people were once a great race who ruled the boundless steppes. In those sacred lands, milk and honey always flowed, and hunger was completely unknown. They were safe and prosperous. Only the mighty god Orcus ruled above them all. Beneath him, everyone was equal, but then came that fateful day. Their ancestors were pulled into this world through a spatial rift, this new land. The place they suddenly found themselves in was cramped, foul-smelling, and miserable. It was completely repulsive. This outskirts settlement was just too small for a proud people who once ruled the vast steppes. The speaker declared they accepted this meager land, even without asking for it. They knew all too well that to the locals, they were just uninvited guests. But true strength lies in generosity, and these merciful orcs actually reached out first, desperately striving for harmony. And how did the humans respond? They treated the orcs like an inferior, despised race, oppressing them at every single turn. The crowd roars in absolute agreement, united in their shared anger. Meanwhile, the priest and investigators watch silently. From a nearby corner, the sheriff whispers that a new sect called Orcus is gaining momentum, driving radicals to attack local hunters. But Kim Dokbi points out that this is not actually a dangerous sect. It is the ancient, traditional faith of a people named after the god Orcus, a belief deeply rooted in their history. The priest explains that since they are from another world, their culture differs massively from humans. For them, battle has always been a matter of honor, and dying in combat is the ultimate sign of nobility. Their whole society is built on warfare. Since this country has freedom of religion, their beliefs are not the issue. The real issue is that this religion is being actively practiced by hot-headed, angry orcs who are completely dissatisfied with society. Even though new laws made their lives somewhat easier, discrimination still runs rampant. Lee-jun quietly points out that prejudice never truly fades. After all, humans can barely get along with each other. Min-young finds this whole situation surprising. Since Kim Dokbi follows those ancient beliefs, why did he become a human priest? What drove him to make that choice? Dokbi explains that he did it because orcs are seen as outsiders here. To build a bridge with the locals, he needed to study their main cultural traditions and fully embrace them. It was necessary. Lee-jun agrees, noting that religion is the deepest cultural layer in the world, and Dokbi's choice to become the first ever orc priest was a genuine attempt to unite humans and orcs together. Dokbi smiles, calling his master absolutely right, but Min-young asks why They must make it so complicated when a simple drink could make them. Friends Dokbi laughs, admitting the sheriff is right. If only every conflict was that simple, but Lee-jun suggests. They focus on finding who was bold enough to attack the hunters. Meanwhile, the orator keeps preaching, telling them to remember the contempt in human eyes and the endless discrimination they endure daily. The crowd cheered in absolute support once again. They showered the orator with approval as he praised their innate strength. Despite doing the work of 3 people, they remained temporary labor. Worse yet, they were only paid half of human wages. The orc demanded to know if his brothers would tolerate this injustice. Hands shot up instantly throughout the roaring crowd. They cheered again, and Lee-jun noticed they even used a battle cry. Clearly, secret meetings were not popular among them. The priest pointed out that matching the criminal with such vague details would be nearly impossible, especially since everyone here wore a dark hood. Min-jun stepped out from hiding. She made her move. In stressful moments like this, she knew a direct head-on approach is faster, so she decided to go first. The others would watch the crowd's reaction for any suspicious movements. The sheriff stood right in the center, demanding everyone's immediate attention. Flashing her official badge, Min-jun introduced herself clearly. She announced she was investigating a major incident that happened nearby. She would need everyone's full cooperation. The local orcs muttered in surprise, wondering what a sheriff was doing here. Tension quickly spiked as one of the orcs panicked. The suspect tried to slip away quietly, but Lee-jun spotted him. Min-jun noticed the runner too and reacted without hesitation. She bolted after him, yelling for him to stop immediately. She demanded his documents, but the orc kept running fast. "Stop that guy," she screamed, as Lee-jun also bolted forward in hot pursuit. Min-jun shoved past the crowd, staying hot on his heels. The orator silently watched the chaos, completely surprised to see the priest. Meanwhile, the priest turned and locked eyes directly with the speaker. It was indeed Park Chung-bi up on stage. Looking at him, Park Chung-bi called out the name Kim Dokbi. Min-jun grabbed the priest's shoulder, demanding to know why he had suddenly stopped. They would lose the fugitive if he kept standing around. Nodding quickly, Kim Dokbi promised he was on her side and chased the runner. The fleeing orc panicked. Had he left too many obvious traces? He really should have stopped after those first 2 attempts. Slipping around a dark corner, the orc believed he was finally safe. But Lee-jun instantly appeared right behind him. Still unaware, the orc smugly thought nobody could find him in his own territory. Lee-jun asked if everyone had scattered. The orc backed away in absolute terror. The master grabbed him firmly by the collar to block another escape. Kim Dokbi and Min-jun caught up and saw the master's success. The protagonist calmly smiled, saying the capture had been pretty easy. He had not expected everything to go this smoothly. The priest stared closely at the captured orc, instantly recognizing him as Chun-ya. The kid screamed he would never do it again, but Dokbi was pretty doubtful. He is just a kid who could not even handle a basic F-rank hunter. Min-jun was surprised and wondered why the kid was running away in the first place. Chun-ya was shocked had they not come because he pickpocketed some drunk hunters. On the street, Lee-jun asked if the priest had sent the kid home. Dokbi nodded, explaining that he gave the troublemaker a stern warning first. He had given him a solid scolding before sending him on his way. The priest then offered to fully pay for all the damage caused. Min-jun agreed, noting that a priest's salary made this look like pocket change. But Dokbi quickly objected. He explained that despite his low priestly wage, he had other secret income streams. So everything was fine. He added that the orc district gets absolutely zero support. They do not get help from hunters and must clear the gates themselves. Lee-jun noted hunters once helped the locals. But discrimination and constant complaints eventually led to some pretty terrible consequences. Eventually, the orcs decided to take care of the dangerous gates themselves. Naturally, the Hunters Association welcomed that decision with wide open arms. Doc Bay noted that the Vatican even stepped in, giving him a personal permit to clear these gates himself. However, if a gate grows too large, he still has to call the association. Doc Bay admitted that orcs are incredibly powerful. They are officially considered fully grown adults by age 14. And a mature orc is easily as powerful as a D-rank hunter. Based on the sheriff's story, the priest suspected the target. Suspect must be at least B-rank, which is extremely rare even among orcs. Lee-jun asked if any specific suspect came to mind. The priest instantly recalled the orator, Park Chung-bae. He fit the profile perfectly, possessing enough power to hunt down a B-rank hunter while harboring a deep hatred toward humans. Lee-jun noted they finally had a solid lead to follow. But how should they proceed? A suspect like him would never just confess. If they simply walked up and asked, Lee-jun suggested using bait. At that moment, a boy carrying some sweets wanted to head back home to share these orcish gifts with his friends, C-rank hunter Na Hong-suk. He happily muttered that these snacks were filling and everyone would love them, wondering why he had never heard of such amazing treats until now. But right behind him, a hooded stranger was silently stalking his steps, grip tightening on a heavy, metallic wrench in his hand. The young hunter muttered to himself about stopping by a store to grab a drink. But the terrifying distance between them was rapidly shrinking. Yet Hong-suk still did not suspect a single thing. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed behind him, sending a chill down his spine. Na Hong-suk froze and listened. Someone was definitely approaching. He spun around in absolute surprise, but there was nobody standing behind him. Just a completely empty street, lit only by the cold moon and a street lamp. He hoped he was just imagining things, but the pursuer suddenly blocked his path, viciously swinging a heavy wrench. At the absolute last second, Hong-suk managed to dodge and dive aside. The young hunter crashed down, spilling everything from his bag, staring in sheer terror at the villain's deadly weapon. Hong-suk scrambled up and ran, screaming for help. The villain chased right after the boy, who kept shouting at the top of his lungs. Hong-suk knew if he hadn't cast the protective barrier his master taught him, he would be dead by now, but where on earth was his master? The young hunter rounded the corner, only to find a brick wall dead. And just like that, he is trapped, with absolutely nowhere left to run. But now, he sneered, it was time to say goodbye to his fragile life. The masked criminal accused the kid of snooping around the neighborhood for 2 whole weeks, looking for a way to target the orcs. Terribly terrified, Hong-suk squeaked out that he was just on a food tour. Naturally, the brutal orc didn't buy a single word. He insisted he was telling the absolute truth, with nothing to hide, but the savage orc just raised his wrench again. The pest had only himself to blame for ruining this neighborhood's peace. The terrified boy shielded his face with both hands, screaming desperately for anyone to save his life. Out of nowhere, Kim Dokbi intercepted, grabbing the heavy tool to block the fatal blow. The priest smiled and noted it had been a very long time since their last meeting. The brutal attacker was none other than Park Chun-bi, the priest admitted. He had his suspicions, but now there was no mistaking him. Kim Dokbi casually pointed out that wrenches are meant for tightening pipes, not cracking skulls. Enraged, Park Chun-bi yelled back that whoever holds the tool gets to decide how it is used. He fiercely slammed his rival to the cold dirt and lashed out. Park Chun-bi quickly realized that if this rookie kid was acting as decoy, the law was likely closing in. He was completely outnumbered out here now, and the situation was turning bad. He had to escape immediately and regroup before things got even worse. The priest bolted right after him, determined not to lose his target. Suddenly, the sheriff and the local tavern owner blocked Park Chun-Bi's escape route. Lee-jun dryly asked where he was rushing off to. Min-young smirked, declaring she had finally cornered him. Kim Dokbi caught up, delivering a heavy kick to make sure the runner wouldn't get away. Shocked onlookers watched as the two powerful orcs clashed. Min-young shrugged, noting the target finally took their bait after 2 long weeks. Lee-jun pointed out that since the orc district was under heavy surveillance, the villains had to move very carefully. Hong-suk proudly announced that his mission was a complete success. The sheriff thanked him, admitting it must have been incredibly terrifying playing the bait. Hong-suk replied that he was just happy to help out whenever needed. The future. Hong-seok explains that the barrier the master taught him worked perfectly. He felt totally at ease because even if a strong enemy attacked, the civilians were completely safe. Lee-jun notices right away the kid's incredible sensitivity to mana. Trust me, with talent like that, he is going to be an absolute powerhouse of a mage. The rookie smiles. He really hopes to reach S-rank status one day. The young rookie admits he was absolutely terrified entering the orc district at first. But despite their scary looks, everyone there was incredibly nice. He completely fell in love with the place, even taking a little food tour. The hot pork soup there was legendary, cooked in so many unique styles, especially with a hot shot of soju. Lee-jun has to agree, that combination sounds like absolute heaven to him. Checking his watch, the young hunter suddenly realizes his next big raid is starting soon. He asks the master if he can finally head out now. Lee-jun waves him off and promises him a whole month of free drinks. A full month of free drinks at the bar. Hong-seok is thrilled. That is going to save him some serious cash. The master waves as the kid rushes out. Min-jun watches him go, surprised that such a kid is already a hunter. Lee-jun smiles. Looks can be deceiving. He is already 26, leaving the sheriff completely stunned. She thought he was a high schooler. The master agrees that the guy has a total baby face. Min-jun is completely shocked. How can he be the exact same age as Kim Dokbi? His skin is still as soft as a newborn baby's. What is his secret? She suspects he has some sort of eternal youth ability. She absolutely must uncover the routine behind that flawless, glowing, perfect skin, no matter what. Meanwhile, Lee-jun watches the massive orcs clash. Time to arrest the killer. The massive beasts trade devastating, savage blows, parrying each other with raw brute force. Kim Dokbi and Park Chun-Bi throw heavy fists at the exact same moment. When their knuckles collide, wait for it, a massive shockwave of raw energy erupts. The massive force blasts both fighters far back. Yet they somehow dig their heels in and remain standing. The priest demands answers. Is Park Chun-Bi really the ruthless killer? The monster slaughtering human hunters without any mercy. Chun-Bi sneers. He only targets the human filth among them. Dokbi clenches his fists, demanding to know. Chun-Bi scoffs. Has the priest still not figured it out? Orcs were once the glorious, absolute center of the entire universe, noble and supreme. Yet humans look down on them as trash, spitting on their pride. Chun-Bi growls that a single orc possesses incomparable strength, equal to 50 human men, standing far above weaklings. There is absolutely no reason they should not be ruling over this world and dominating everyone in their paths. Dokbi stares. Chun-Bi stands alone, killing human hunters to thin their ranks before the war. Orcs are sparse, but humans are completely endless. And make no mistake, those human fighters are just as deadly. Chun-Bi openly questions if the priest is truly a defeatist who wants their tribe to crawl, bowing their heads to mere humans for centuries to come. But Dokbi insists that is not what he meant at all. Chun-Bi had genuinely hoped the priest would step up and lead their race. After all, he is the 17th descendant of their royal line, strong and battle-hardened. He has proven time and again that he is worthy of leading. The ultimate warrior blood of the orc tribe flows directly through his veins. Yet he threw those high hopes away to become a devout fanatic. What a total disgrace. Is he not terrified of what happens after he dies? Standing before the great god Orcus with nothing but shame to offer, Doc Bay urges his brother to open his eyes and face the brutal truth. They are just a tiny fraction in a world completely dominated by humans. The only smart path forward is peaceful coexistence, not endless war. Chunbei scoffs, calling all of it pure, empty talk. What kind of future is left if they completely abandon their warrior roots? The priest sighs, realizing his brother will never truly understand his vision. Dubei steps in, agreeing that Chunbei is entirely right about this. If all their shared drinks and history could not change him, nothing will. Chunbei rips off his heavy cloak, declaring that the priest talks far too much. He makes it dead clear that this battle is far from over. Chunbei growls that there is absolutely no point in talking. He snaps that from this moment on, they only speak with their fists. Doc Bay nods. If a brutal clash is unavoidable, then so be it. The priest accepts his fate as any true warrior would. He has absolutely no choice but to face this challenge head-on. Prepared to settle this one-on-one, the priest tosses aside his own cloak. Doc Bay addresses his brother, ready to begin the intense confrontation. He issues a direct, solemn challenge to a sacred duel. It is a holy duel of honor, martyrdom, and this fight is going to be brutal. This is the final, desperate dialogue orcs resort to when all negotiations fail. A sacred battle where both warriors stake their absolute ideals and justice. In their culture, the winner's word becomes the only absolute, undeniable truth. The loser must submit completely to the victor's ultimate will. But if a warrior refuses to accept defeat, only one grim path remains. Fighting to the bitter death, Doc Bay suddenly strikes his brother's heavy jaw. Chunbei immediately retaliates with a brutal punch of his own. They stand toe-to-toe, trading heavy blows before throwing kicks. But they know each other too well, perfectly blocking every attack. Chunbei roars that the priest is finished, launching a massive roundhouse. They clash wildly, shifting from corner to corner of the stone room. They relentlessly chase and retreat, desperately looking for a deadly counter. Chunbei mocks him, yelling that the priest only knows how to run. Facing his rival like a real man, Chunbei asks where the once proud warrior went and if he truly became a weakling after. Becoming a soft priest, Chunbei reminds him they had sworn a sacred oath in their youth to dedicate their entire lives to their people. Does that old promise, made while clinking wooden cups, mean absolutely nothing to him now? Chunbei keeps striking hard, waiting to hear a real answer from his blood brother, wondering if the oath was a lie. Doc Bay quickly fires back that it was never a lie, claiming his deep devotion to the orcs is still strong even to this day. Chunbei calls it a flat-out lie, demanding to know if his brother really did all of this for their kind, adding that the priest only wags his tail before humans like some pathetic, beaten dog. The two rivals suddenly back off into opposite corners of the dusty room, finally giving them a moment to catch their breath. Chunbei wheezes that his opponent is crushing the sacred honor of orcs without ever fighting a single real warrior battle. Doc Bay calmly retorts that the final outcome is obvious, asking if dying in a pointless, exhausting battle truly makes someone a warrior. The two clash once more, and honestly, this fight is getting crazy. Chunbei begins coughing up blood, but Doc Bay repeats his stance. His brother simply refuses to understand, no matter how much he explains. The priest reminds him that Chunbei already declared that words are completely useless now. Doc Bay proclaims that only the victor will decide who was right. Meanwhile, Minjun and Lee-jun quietly watch the intense struggle. It plays out like a classic cinematic duel, packed with dialogue and heavy blows. The only thing missing is an epic soundtrack, Min-jun asks his master. If they are really just going to stand around, Lee-jun replies. That interfering right now is a bad idea. For orcs, a duel is sacred. It is how they determine who is right, and anyone stepping in now will immediately become a hated enemy to their entire race, the sheriff notes. That these ritual rules sound like a trading card game, and Lee-jun agrees. The master then asks if she can see Doc Bay's body. It is completely free of any scars. Lee-jun points out that this beast has not cleared every dungeon. He has absolutely survived massive raids on high-tier rank gates. To emerge completely unmarked from those battles proves he possesses absurd, legendary strength. Still, Lee-jun tells the sheriff not to worry. Monsters as powerful as Doc Bay are extremely rare among their kind. Shocked, the sheriff wonders if Doc Bay is really that strong. Chun-Bei thought he had pushed himself to the absolute limit for his people, growing far stronger than ever. Why then is he still unable to beat Doc Bay? Why is triumph still so far away? Was this really the destiny of a warrior chosen by Orcus himself? Chun-Bei wondered if he was actually inferior to his rival, just a pitiful lackey who fell for human faith. Park Chun-Bei absolutely refused to ever accept that weak human faith. He claimed that Orcus abandoned all of them long ago. By the exact moment he left the orc world, nobody could deny that harsh reality anymore. Clinging to a false god makes absolutely no sense for their race. Chun-Bei insisted that his rival must extend a hand to him to claim ultimate power. Together, they would finally crush the pathetic traitor blocking his path. He wanted that traitor ripped into a billion tiny pieces, making him suffer so terribly. That traitor needed to serve as nothing but a stepping stone on his path. Park Chun-Bei's body began to warp wildly. His eyes glowing crimson, Park Chun-Bei turned into a monster, which instantly lunged at the priest. This beast looked exactly like the one that had previously possessed Ryu Soyun and the terrifying creature from the local tavern. They shared a dark connection. Suddenly, the priest was sent flying backward. This monster was on a completely different level. Compared to Chun-Bei's human form, Lee-jun and Min-jun instantly realized that this was the demonization mode. The sheriff felt this insane, rank-defying power. Clearly soaring past rank A, Kim Dokbi raised his head and demanded to know what was wrong, asking if his brother swallowed poison. The priest wondered if his brother had actually let some demonic filth completely consume him. Right in the middle of their sacred mode, the demon kept snarling with flashing eyes, displaying pure, raw aggression. Dokbi spat back, calling his opponent a complete fool. Ruining this mad day was a complete disgrace. It betrayed all military honor, throwing away his pride as an orc. The priest demanded to know where his famous pride had gone. Kim Dokbi stepped forward to deliver his final, cold verdict. If he had truly resorted to such cheap tactics, then he was a pure coward. The priest lunged forward, swinging a heavy punch right to the jaw. A barrage of brutal strikes followed, but the monster barely even flinched. He just laughed. With a sudden counterattack, the priest was sent crashing to the side, barely catching himself on one knee. Dokbi spat at his rival, who once lectured everyone about a true warrior's sacred honor, was now a brainless beast that could not even speak properly. Was this pathetic, monstrous form really what he had always wanted? Due to this demonic transformation, Park Chun-Bei's physical stats had skyrocketed to massive limits, easily pushing him to rank A. The priest struggled desperately to keep up with his attacks, but there was one massive problem. Was his absurd, endless durability. Absolutely nothing seemed to hurt him. If they kept trading blows, Dokbi would definitely be the one to run out of stamina first. The priest desperately planned his next move. His best bet was to dodge constantly and wear down the giant. With that massive size, his energy is bound to drain quickly. That might actually work, or he could focus all his power on a single point. Pouring every single strike into one spot could be enough to break that heavy armor. But Doc Bay quickly realized these were nothing more than empty hopes. Without more information, finding a real solution right now was impossible. Still, the priest was determined to do absolutely everything in his power. Min-jun asks again if they are really just going to stand by and watch. After all, Chung-bae has fully transformed into a demon, making things incredibly dangerous. Judging by that massive aura, they are dealing with an A-rank monster. Lee-jun admits this is a massive hassle since he never expected a demon. The sheriff asks what they should do now, looking for a clear plan. Lee-jun points out that if the priest wants a strict one-on-one duel, he would never accept any outside help. He would rather die first. Orcs are notoriously stubborn, so demonic energy usually cannot take them over so easily. Perhaps he had been exposed to this dark corruption for far too long. Suddenly, a massive chunk of reinforced concrete from the building begins to collapse. It threatens to crush them, but Lee-jun reacts instantly. With a casual flick of his hand, he catches the heavy block midair. He casually mentions that turning into a demon completely destroys a person's sanity. Their minds go completely blank, making them lose the ability to speak, repeating meaningless words forever. Lee-jun adds that greater drawbacks always bring greater power. Giving up their lifespan lets these monsters gain unbelievable physical strength. Now they can easily match a high-rank hunter. Nobody knows the exact cause of this terrifying demonic transformation yet. It usually involves mana poisoning, heavy corruption, and conflicting energies inside. An orc that could already hunt B-rank masters is incredibly dangerous. Once demonized, its destructive strength becomes almost impossible to calculate. On top of that, it barely feels any pain. Seeing this, Lee-jun realizes he might have to step in. Suddenly, the demon shoves the priest, sending him flying off the edge. He falls straight down from the top floor, and onlookers rush over. The sheriff anxiously asks how Doc Bay is doing. Standing right back up, the stubborn priest insists he is fine. But Min-jun can see the deep wounds covering his entire body. Doc Bay warns the master not to step in under any circumstances. He insists this duel belongs to him, and he will not tolerate interference. Get in his way, and he will never forgive them. Lee-jun quietly nods in agreement, respecting the man's pride. The priest thanks him, knowing how much this fight truly means. Turning back to the rampaging beast, Doc Bay calls out his name. He pleads with the monster, reminding Chung-bae that they are brothers. If his brother is truly lost, he will risk everything to stop him. He looks ahead, knowing he faces his own flesh and blood. As a battle-hardened warrior, Chun-bae must remember who he is. He must remember the precise moment they clinked glasses and swore a sacred vow. The young orcs were thrown right out onto the cold street, ordered to leave immediately, while the cook sneered. The cook barked that if customers saw filthy orcs around here, all the customers would scatter in an instant. A young Kim Doc-bae replied they were customers as well and had money, but the cook snapped that an orc has no right to be a customer, refusing to take their potentially counterfeit cash. Park Chun-bae quietly suggested to his friend that they should just leave. Today was not their day. Doc Bay felt they had done absolutely nothing wrong. Why on earth were they being treated so terribly? Chun-bae suggested they grab a drink, which caught Doc Bay completely off guard. Chun-bae insisted that on a miserable day like this, a drink was mandatory. Of course, since they were not adults yet, alcohol was strictly out of bounds. Instead, he brought out some milk to make up for it. It looked just like macchiali, so they decided to pretend it was real booze. They would drain their cups and wash away all of their current sorrow. Doc Bay just laughed at his friend's silly talk. Right there, the two friends made a deep promise. These were now their cups of brotherhood. Until the very last cup in this world broke, they would live for each other. Chunbei even swore he would lay down his life for his brother without hesitation. Back then, Chunbei was actually gentler toward humans than anyone else. They had balanced each other perfectly, learning and growing side by side. The priest stared, wondering how his beloved brother had become such a terrifying monster. How could he pierce the heart of his closest friend without a single regret? Chunbei had cast aside everything, even rejecting the sacred honor of an orc. Now the beast just growled aggressively, ready to tear everything to shreds. His eyes gleamed with pure malice. Kim Dok-bae lay broken against the ruined wall. Summoning his absolute last bit of strength, the priest managed to sit up. He looked at the massive monster and pleaded, reminding him of his heritage. A true orc warrior would never surrender to the corrupting demonic energy. No matter how bad things got, Dok-bae still believed in him. He was a legendary warrior, the brother who drank from the very same cup. The dying priest was incredibly proud to have Chunbei as his brother. Chunbei would never desecrate the sacred duel they were currently fighting. Dok-bae screamed for his brother to remember their shared cup of brotherhood. The beast only growled louder in response, baring its razor-sharp teeth. But wait, can he actually snap out of it? The sheriff yelled to stop. Lee-jun pulled a single coin from his pocket, unable to watch any longer. He did not care if the priest ended up hating him for interfering. The protagonist aimed his coin straight at the rampaging beast. If he did not step in immediately, Kim Dok-bae was going to die. The coin flew true, and dark blood sprayed right from the open wound. Roaring out his name, Park Chunbei proclaims himself a proud orc warrior. He fights blindly, while Dok-bae does nothing but defend himself. To the beast, Kim Dok-bae is a legendary brother he once envied. Childhood friends who once swore an unbreakable oath of brotherhood. But then his brother started preaching strange, impossible ideals. He wanted peace between humans and orcs, a dream that tore them apart. And yet, Dok-bae still means the world to him. No one else could ever take his place, absolutely irreplaceable. Then why is he fighting his dearest friend? Park Chun-bae mutters that he remembers their duel, but wonders how it came to this. No matter how hard he racks his brain, he can't find the answer. The memory is gone. Kim Dok-bae looks at him, completely confused. What is his brother talking about? Did he just call him by his name? With absolute sincerity, Kim Dok-bae declares that he still trusts him. Catching his reflection in a shattered window, Chun-bae freezes in pure horror. Is that hideous beast really him? Dok-bae begs his brother to remember the day they sealed their bond. Drinking together as brothers, and suddenly the fog in his mind clears. He stands there, bleeding heavily from the magic wound. The coins strike burns, but he screams out that he is Park Chun-bae. Hideous demon flesh peels away, reversing the foul curse. A relieved priest declares that his brother is finally back. Waking up from the nightmare, Chun-bae realizes his senses have returned. He had let himself be controlled, a disgrace to any true warrior. Bowing his head, he admits his shameful weakness. He ruined their sacred duel and begs his brother for forgiveness. Dok-bae nods. He accepts the apology, knowing it was a curse. It was just a misunderstanding. Chun-bae smiles. Perfect. Now they can finish their fight. Dok-bae readies his weapon. Min-jun watches, completely dumbfounded. This is absolute madness. Are they seriously going to keep beating each other? Lee-jun sighs, agreeing that it makes no sense. But then again, that is just how orcs live. Meanwhile, a nearby security camera captures every single second. Behind the screen, a mysterious girl watches in utter shock. How did the curse break? He was such a promising toy too. A little more, and she would have had an S-rank demon. In her office, she glares at the monitors, face twisting in pure rage. All that time spent infecting the beast, and her mind control just shattered. Screaming in frustration, the girl begins to throw a massive tantrum. She shrieks that this is exactly why she despises these stubborn creatures. Dead guards lie slaughtered across the floor. Her original plan does not even matter anymore. Maybe it is simpler to just slaughter everyone in the city. Down below, the two orcs keep clashing to settle their old score. They pushed each other to the limit, but Kim Dokbi held his ground, proving his beliefs were right in this duel. He told his defeated brother that this command was final, issued not as a mere priest, but as their true leader. His sins were too heavy. The clan would never forget, so he had to accept his guilt and face the consequences, but the priest promised that once he paid his penance, he could return as an honorable orc and dedicate his life to helping people. It would not fully clean his bloodstained hands, but there would always be a home for him among the hunters. Exhausted, the priest finally lost his footing and began to stumble, collapsing onto the cold floor. Both warriors now lay side by side, completely drained of energy. Min-jun rushed over to Kim Dokbi, while Lee-jun noted that the entire situation was finally settled. Then he stared directly at a camera. They had an uninvited guest. In a dark room, a girl stared back at the screen, deeply intrigued by this mysterious newcomer. Lee-jun flipped a coin, warning the hidden spy to back off. He hates being watched. With perfect aim, he let the coin fly. It tore through the air like a lethal bullet. The lens exploded, sparking into a million tiny fragments. Back in the bunker, her screens suddenly went completely black. She slammed the desk in rage, but a sinister smile quickly followed. This guy was interesting, and she absolutely had to have him. Once she played with him, she planned to rip him apart piece by piece. The scene cuts to a news broadcast about a captured serial killer. The police had finally caught the notorious maniac, a man named Park, who had terrorized the city. Park received a life sentence, without parole, forced to clear dungeon gates to pay his debt. A young hunter scrolled through the news on his phone, highly skeptical. He wondered if that rookie was actually the one who caught him. But Hong-seok proudly smiled, confirming he did indeed solve the case. Even the guild master stepped in to back up his claim, confirmed that they caught the villain solely by relying on Hong-seok. At his bar, Lee-jun prepared some specialty drinks. For his guests, grinning, Hong-seok asked if his drink was free. The handsome owner nodded, telling him to order whatever he liked. Hong-seok cheered, happily sipping on his sweet coffee cocktail. It tasted exactly like coffee milk, but with a grown-up kick. Nearby, Jinwoo enjoyed his classic old-fashioned, savoring the bittersweet strength. The boss was pleased that everyone loved his unique creations. Pleased, suddenly, Lee Ruri spotted the patrons and gasped. One of their patrons looked like a literal child. Was this even legal? Offended by her reaction, Hong-seok immediately began to snap back. She was up to her old tricks again. Even though he was 26, the hunter showed his ID, but Ruri claimed it was fake since the ink had completely faded. The girl added that it looked like a total knockoff. Hong-seok kept complaining and calling her annoying names since she was clearly trying to get right under his skin. Ruri then told her uncle that she wanted something sweet, too. Meanwhile, Lee-jun crafted a matching cocktail, claiming it looked the same but would taste much better for a kid. Ruri happily sat down next to him, sipping her milkshake. She joyfully declared that it was incredibly sweet, just like real coffee milk. Kim Jinwoo smiled and called her adorable, while Hong-seok mentioned that he also loved that drink as a kid. Hong-seok then asked if everyone returned from the dungeon completely unharmed. Jinwoo explained that it was only a scouting run, so everything went smoothly without any major injuries. Hong-seok sighed, recalling that during his last group raid into a dungeon, one hunter lost his life, a young rookie from some guild they had never met before. Hong-seok explained that the run itself was quite safe, but for the newbie it was his very first raid. The poor guy panicked and ignored the Leader's orders, Jinwoo quietly agreed that it was a tragedy. Hong Seok shook his head, saying if the rookie had listened, he would have survived. Completely unscathed, when beginners die like that out of sheer foolishness. Honestly, it leaves you incredibly frustrated, knowing that a tragedy like this could have been avoided. Jinwoo pointed out that dungeon scouting is incredibly thorough these days. Except for some extreme cases, almost every hunter makes it back alive. Jinwoo added that even considering those lost during highly volatile dimensional gates and dangerous dungeon scouting runs, the average survival rate still easily exceeds 90%. That is because high-level, overpowered teams are specifically sent to clear out these low-level gates. Still, Jinwoo admitted he had watched plenty of comrades perish over the years, slowly growing completely numb to the loss. Hong Seok quietly admitted that he felt the exact same way. He suggested the disaster in their first battle occurred because they lacked time to properly bond as a team, but deep down he was just used to tragedy. After all, getting accustomed to death is the grim reality of this line of work. Hong Seok then turned to the master, asking if he was once a hunter himself. Nearby, Ryu begged for another drink, but the master firmly refused. The master smiled, confirming that he used to raid dungeons as well. The guests grew curious, wondering if the old-school raiding atmosphere was completely different back then. Yu Ilhan paused to think before explaining that the old days were actually far more terrifying. A bloodthirsty beast used to roam the city streets, hunting down civilians and mercilessly slaughtering everyone. One unlucky passerby spotted the creature and stood completely frozen in absolute terror. The beast lifted the helpless man, opening its massive, razor-sharp maw. Another hunter, gripping a sword, stood ready to fight, watching in absolute horror as the monster swallowed the victim whole. Terrified, the swordsman watched as the massive creature turned and began stalking toward the armed man. Terrified, the man covered his face with his hand, but at that exact moment, the beast was sliced clean in half. A hunter suddenly appeared, asking what the guy was doing. He reminded him of his old advice: if the young man wanted to survive, he absolutely had to strike first and ask questions later. With eyes wide from sheer terror, the young man warned the hunter of approaching danger. Right behind the hunter, Yu Ilhan, a massive beast loomed. Instantly, the beast was blown apart. Another ally had arrived to help. Yu Ilhan scoffed, saying that strike was way too slow. He was almost hit. The squad leader, Baek Yunho, quickly spoke up, noting that his partner was not slow, but Yu Ilhan was just too fast. The rookie was stunned. Standing before him was the absolute legend who pulverizes hundreds of beasts with his bare fists. It was the legendary Baek Cheolgu. Lee-jun told Baek Cheolgu that this new guy was his biggest fan. Baek Cheolgu replied that things would be different if Lee-jun kept promoting himself. Said that simply was not his style. He had a completely different priority. He wanted to conquer as many gates as possible and do it incredibly fast, just to get closer to his daughter. Hearing this, Baek Cheolgu noted he sounded like he actually enjoyed this. He replied that they needed to wipe out these beasts right now. Before reinforcements showed up, drawing his blade, Lee-jun charged forward at the giant beasts, shouting that he would turn them into absolute mincemeat. The rookie hunter watched this masterclass in absolute awe. Later, he told his crew how the chief had sliced monsters apart with his blade, while the veteran guardian had crushed them using only his fists. Absolutely no beast could stand a chance against them. Together, they annihilated over 20 monsters without taking even a single scratch. Their team leader, Kim Hong, admitted that their battle prowess deserved serious respect, but their mage, Jegel Hyun, scoffed, pointing out that he was talking as if he had actually fought on the front lines, when he had really just stood safely on the sidelines the whole time. Kim Hong replied that witnessing a crazy battle like that makes your adrenaline go wild. Honestly, just surviving that chaotic mess was a massive win. Chasing after those beasts was a major victory in itself. The crew agreed that staying alive for a cold beer was all that mattered. Lee-jun took a few deep gulps from his flask, sighing that it was exactly what he needed. Nothing beats a drink after work. Baek Cheolgu shook his head, explaining that he did not touch alcohol. The protagonist pointed out it was just fruit soju, the very last bottle in the shop. When asked about their status, Baek Cheolgu quietly replied that there were currently 13 survivors left. Lee-jun noted that was not bad. Baek Cheolgu stared in disbelief. What did not bad mean when they first entered? There were 86 hunters, 73 died during the sweep. Could he really call that decent? Lee-jun shrugged, muttering that there was simply nothing they could do about it. Nobody could have predicted a B-rank gate would suddenly mutate into a deadly A rank. At least they survived the gate, as Lee-jun notes. Somehow the main raid corps made it out, and the cleanup is almost done. Baek Cheolgu admits his partner is right. On paper, the numbers actually look pretty solid. Still, Cheolgu points out survival rates are plummeting. If they keep going like this, every last hunter will die soon. This leaves the world completely defenseless. Lee-jun says he is already pushing his absolute limits, but what can they do? That is just how things are right now, but Cheolgu is not buying it. If they fix the system, survival rates will skyrocket. The real issue is throwing rookies and veterans into the same grinder. They have no prep if they split them up by rank instead. And balance their forces properly, the outcome would completely change. Baek Cheolgu begs him to stop blindly throwing lives away in these dungeons. They need to freeze, rethink, and organize a real game plan. But Lee-jun refuses. He has to keep moving because is waiting. Cheolgu hits back. Is she really waiting? That makes Lee-jun snap. What does he even mean by that? Cheolgu realized that Lee-jun has been obsessing over this name lately. He keeps insisting over and over that he must find his daughter. But Cheolgu has known him forever and has never actually seen a kid. Lee-jun does not even have a single picture of her. The only proof of her existence is whatever comes out of his mouth. Combing through deadly gates for some mystery kid is pure, unadulterated madness. So does this girl even actually exist? That did it. Lee-jun grabs his friend, slamming him against the wall. Lee-jun punches the concrete, spiderwebbing the surface with deep cracks. Another strike completely shatters it. He grabs Baek Cheolgu by the collar. He dares him to say it again. Baek Cheolgu calmly tells him to get his hands off. Suddenly, a third person steps into the room, making them both turn. He tells them to chill, thinking a monster had breached their defenses. Lee-jun just stares him down. He suggests the boss take a look at what they just found. The newcomer is standing there, holding a few bottles of vintage wine. He remembered that Baek Cheolgu really loves a good vintage. Yun Sohyun chimes in, saying he discovered an entire case of it. And Yunho already used his ice magic to chill the bottles perfectly. Lee-jun recognizes it. Riesling is Baek Cheolgu's favorite. Baek Cheolgu agrees it is good. Plus, even without glasses, drinking straight from the bottle has its charm. It actually brings a pretty unique vibe to the moment. Lee-jun adds that you do not even need a glass. You still get to experience the entire range of flavors. Just let the wine sit in your mouth for a second, the main character notes. He handed the bottle over to the guard, admitting he had spoken completely out of turn. Cheolgu apologized for bringing up a personal topic. Around the warm campfire, the gathered hunters happily drank the wine they found. A massive monster roared. It viciously swiped at a nearby hunter. Flesh ripped, a massive pool of blood quickly stained the ground. The surviving hunters grabbed their weapons and desperately fought off the attackers. Baek Cheolgu saw the young rookie lying dead. He roared in pure rage. It felt just like the day the heavens split open. When armed monsters poured from another dimension and the old world completely collapsed. Overnight, everything collapsed. Lee-jun was clearing the rubble. Shouting from the ruins, he told Chialgu to run away immediately. That was the moment the Guardian met the world's only hope. An absolute powerhouse who slaughtered monsters alone and saved countless desperate lives. He was the very first real hunter he had ever laid eyes on. Lee-jun himself. Operating on a completely different level, he pulled off miracles regular people could only dream of. Driven by fate, Baek Chialgu resolved to stand right beside this legend. Together they would face the apocalypse shoulder to shoulder, but he was not alone. Like moths drawn to a burning flame, crowds of rescued survivors wanted to follow him. They all desperately wished to walk right alongside their savior. But the tragic reality was that his unmatched power separated him from everyone else. They wanted to stand with him, but let's be real, death followed him everywhere. Luckily, Baek Chialgu eventually awakened his own inner power. He was nowhere near Lee-jun, but it was enough to keep him breathing. It kept him alive through this hell, though he watched endless allies fall along the way. Yet he could never get used to the endless losses. A dark thought began to haunt him about this endless war of attrition. If veterans kept dying as fast as rookies showed up, the loyal comrades standing right by his side would slowly vanish. They would disappear one by one until he was left standing entirely alone in the dark. Chialgu knew that sooner or later, even his own luck would finally run out. Think about it, would the leader really end up completely alone at the end? Even then, their master would keep marching forward into the endless void. Carrying that kind of burden must be an unbelievably cold and lonely existence. Hearing that Yun Seohyun had died felt like losing another piece of his soul. There had to be a better way for hunters to survive this meat grinder. Staring ahead, Lee-jun muttered that the wine tasted bitter. Chialgu pointed out that only 7 of them had actually made it out alive. The master replied that less than 10% survived, a tragedy that was easily avoidable. Lee-jun agreed, prompting Chialgu to say he was done watching senseless sacrifices. Instead, he wanted to head back and reform the entire hunter system from the inside. He needed to strengthen their core foundation. Lee-jun would keep pushing forward, insisting there was no other way. Chialgu simply warned him that one day, even he would have to stop. A day when even the mighty master would choose to stop. The Guardian notes this is where they part ways, but Lee-jun agrees. He believes Chialgu made the absolute right choice. Even so, he is not quite as cool as Chialgu thinks. Lee-jun believes that true heroes are the ones who look back, doing only what is necessary in the moment. He trusts his gut and presses on. Lee-jun adds that even if they look towards different paths, he trusts Chialgu's instincts above all else. After all, he is the little brother who makes him proud. Chialgu thanks his master, ready to say his final goodbyes. He tells Lee-jun to stay safe out there. Lee-jun suggests they share one last drink together. The young hunter pours his flask onto the earth, offering a silent prayer. Lee-jun quietly asks his fallen comrades to rest in peace before leaving the graves of the fallen behind. Meanwhile, Hong Shi-hyuk and Yu Jinho are relaxing at the busy pub. Lee-jun joins them, repeating how back in his day, when he was still an active hunter, things were entirely different. Send 100 into a dungeon and barely 10 survive. Hong Shi-hyuk laughs, claiming their master is just exaggerating. After all, those were the ancient first-generation days, but Yu Jinho points out that he read similar stories in history books. Hong Shi-hyuk chimed in, noting those chaotic events occurred 10 years ago. Yet Lee-jun looks barely older than they do. Hunters are categorized into generations every 10 years, making them the 3rd. The greenest rookies around, those fresh out of school, represent the 4th generation. Hong Shi-hyuk notes that nowadays, even teams running dangerous A-rank. Raids usually return with everyone completely safe and sound. Yu Jinho agrees, admitting that modern hunters receive top-tier training. They are leagues ahead of the old guard, knowing exactly how to handle any crisis without freezing up. Hong Shihyuk nods along, explaining that the hunter training programs are always being updated to maximize efficiency. In fact, the curriculum is on its 7th revision. But even as more hunters register, dungeon gates keep multiplying rapidly, so manpower remains incredibly tight. At least their overall working conditions are improving day by day. Yu Jinho admits that the world is getting a bit better. Still, Hong Shihyuk notices their master keeps a completely blank face. Everything he says sounds incredibly serious. Hong Shihyuk quietly whispers to his partner, maybe his past as an active hunter isn't actually a lie. He could have been some low-level desk clerk working near the action. Yu Jinho sighs, reminding him that he can hear everything. Every single word. Lee-jun suddenly remembers a rare wine and offers a free round. The young hunters up, eagerly accepting. They are definitely down. Hong Shihyuk and Yu Jinho take a sip and they prepared a special grape sorbet for Ruri, and she absolutely loved it. Ruri declared it delicious. The next morning, she eagerly stepped outside. She looked around. The weather was absolutely perfect. Birds flew everywhere. This immediately brought a massive smile to her face. They circled her. One even landed right on her head. Suddenly, an alarm clock blared from inside. Ruri knew that sound instantly. It was her uncle Lee-jun's alarm. He was finally waking up. Lee-jun sat up with a massive yawn. He still wanted to sleep. Mornings were always rough. He really never got nearly enough sleep. He needed to go to bed earlier. Suddenly, Ruri peeked inside. She wore a sly, mischievous grin. Her uncle asked what was up. Ruri had a plan. She wanted to explore the entire neighborhood. But Lee-jun was far too tired. He honestly just wanted to stay home. Ruri looked completely crushed. Hearing her disappointment, her uncle quickly relented. He just needed a quick shower first. Soon, they were happily walking together. Ruri finally got her ice cream, and honestly, she totally deserved it. It was cold and sweet. The bright sun made it perfect. The beautiful weather made the treat taste even better. Suddenly, Ruri winced in pain. A nasty brain freeze had hit her hard. Lee-jun laughed. That always happens when you rush eating such cold treats. But then he heard a familiar voice nearby. It was Sheriff Min-jun. She was warning a suspect not to run. Apparently, this guy was looking for real trouble. Why on earth would he use his abilities for extortion? Unfortunately, everything was caught on camera. Ruri greeted her sister Yun. The sheriff also wished them good morning. She asked where they were headed. Ruri immediately exposed her uncle. She announced he was going on a date, which completely shocked Sheriff Min-jun. Lee-jun quickly told Ruri to stop talking nonsense. Amused, the sheriff went back to her suspect, wishing them well. Lee-jun warned Ruri, don't grow up to be mean like her. Ruri eagerly promised she would never do that. Suddenly, Ruri spotted a clothing store and dragged her uncle inside. She tried on a brand new outfit. She looked completely transformed. After shopping, they visited a cozy cafe and ordered plenty of delicious pastries. Ruri happily offered her uncle a bite of cake. Eventually, their long and exciting walk ended. Lee-jun and Ruri headed back home. Ruri was so incredibly exhausted that she fell asleep right in his arms. A while later, Ruri slowly woke up. Lee-jun gently welcomed her back. She thanked her uncle. She had so much fun today. She even proudly claimed she could easily walk the rest of the way alone. But Lee-jun told her to sit still. They were almost home. Ruri giggled, saying she loved being carried by her favorite uncle. Lee-jun softly shushed her, but Ruri kept asking what happens next. What if, purely hypothetically, it turned out that his companion was not human at all? Lee-jun was completely stunned, wondering what she even meant. Ruri explained that he might look and act perfectly human on the outside, but secretly be a monster. June just replied that even if he was different, and he really was different from what he seemed, nothing would change. He would still be himself, just as Ruri would always be Ruri. She smiled softly at that, but June immediately warned her once again.